meeting of the Falmouth
Recording
Conservation
in progress.
Commission. Oh, sure. Wait till I'm talking, then turn it on. All right. This meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference. Please be patient. We'll do our best to be efficient and allow everyone to participate equitably. This meeting is also being broadcast and streamed online by FCTV in real time. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom, broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say, how you say it, and what can be seen and heard in your background. The chair acknowledges the attendance and continued support of our entire staff, Jen, Alyssa, Liz, Mark, Amy, and Kristen. We have a full complement of commissioners tonight. Thank you all for your dedication. However, the appointed bonus commissioner tonight is Pat Harris. All right. I'd like to remind the commissioners for commenting. I'll call on each of you at the appropriate time so we're not speaking over each other. And their votes have to be done by roll call. So when I call your name, state your name and your vote, even if you made the motion for the second. To our public participants, at any time during this meeting, you may enter any comment or questions via the chat function. At the appropriate time, they will be read into the record. The link and further instructions are located on the agenda. Also, Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021 regarding COVID-19 allows for full public participation. Therefore, if you'd like to be heard on a specific hearing, let us know via the chat function. Then at the appropriate time, I'll call for public comment. When you are selected, you will be moved into the hearing as a participant. As such, you must have your video enabled, be succinct and respectful of others. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. And for those of you waiting for a particular hearing, and so you don't wait unnecessarily, the following hearings will be requesting a continuance: 72 Pheasant Lane and 267 Clinton Ave. First up, special announcement. Alyssa Bergeron is officially our new conservation agent. Congratulations, Alyssa.
Congratulations, Alyssa.
Yeah. Happy to be here.
We're glad you're with us too.
Congratulations. Well deserved.
Thank you.
Now get to work. All right. First up, other business. Eagle Scout project, Owen Lovell. Construct and install small bridge with handrails over channel located at the southwest corner of Pond 14. Jen?
Yes, I've promoted Owen Level up so he can present his Eagle Scout project. Alyssa, just a quick word. Tom Bunker said congratulations in chat. Hello, Owen. How are you?
Hi, good.
Okay. Well, we're ready to hear what you intend to do for your Eagle Scout project.
Okay. Let me just figure out how to share my screen. It's been a long time since I've done this.
So there's a little thing on the bottom. It should say green. It says share screen.
So, yes. So, my plan, can you guys see this?
No.
Not yet.
Oh.
No. Hold on. Can you guys see it now?
Nope.
No. All right, what are we doing wrong?
Mark, do you have it?
Window. There we go. That might help.
Yeah. Now click on the window. Out.
Share.
Now can you see it?
Can you guys see this now?
No.
Sorry, nope.
It's not working. I am trying. Okay. Sorry about this.
No worries.
I don't know, it's just not, doesn't seem to be able to share.
I would share, but I think, hang on. You sent it to, let's see if I can open it from here.
Yeah, you have the email that was sent to the office, right, Jen?
Yeah, but it's in kind of it's in kind of a server. So when we click on it, it says the presentation was sent to, a code was sent to Concom, and there's no code in the Concom email because I'm looking at it right now. Oh, wait, verification code. Here we go. Let's see if I can do this for you, Owen.
Thank you, that would be helpful, because I don't,
Not a problem. Let's see.
it's not working.
Okay. Hang on one. Slideshow. Okay, I'm going to share my screen, Owen, and then when you want me to switch the screens, just say next screen, please. Or
Okay.
next slide. There you go.
Thanks, Jen.
You can switch now, because that's about,
We just started.
you can switch. You can switch. It's not switching.
Nope, I'll click it for you. Oh, wait a minute. Now I'm having a problem. Hang on 1 second. Okay. Okay, everybody see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Is that
There
the
we
slide you want, Owen?
Yes. So my plan is, so this is what the bridge looks like now. It looks like there's a guardrail there, but from the pit, but that's basically a very low log that's fallen over. It's very low. It's almost very close to the bridge itself. It's very narrow. It's like, it's 12 feet long. It's 12 feet long, and there is a log that is supported by a log in the middle of the stream that will trap debris. So you can switch.
Okay. Oh, why don't you explain to the commission where exactly this is located?
This is located, so it's located on Pond 14.
Okay.
The stream runs from Pond 14 to, we're not sure where. I wasn't actually know where, but it's on Tony Ender's farm, which is, and it is running from Pond 14 to an undisclosed location. You can switch now.
Okay. Is this the slide you want?
Yes. This is basically what the log is showing, just the log in the middle, and with reference to the bridge. You can switch again.
Okay.
So as you can see, my plan is to build a bridge 3 feet wide and 15 feet long, and it's going to be level flush with the ground for easy access. We realized we wanted to get it 15 feet long so it could raise it farther from the bank, farther from this actual stream. Because right now the bridge now is like almost very close to the stream, and it's you have to walk far down on the bank to get to the bridge. So we're trying to have it be raised from the stream and have it flush with the ground. Also, all of the wood cutting will be done off-site, and we will be assembling it on-site. We'll also probably be digging post holes and a small trench to have it be just a small area down that we can be able to put it level flush with the trails. We will probably have to take out some of the roots, but of the tree that is right near the trail. But we will be trying to take as little of that tree as possible. You can switch now. This is a bridge very similar to what we're building, what we're gonna build, just to give you like an idea of what it's gonna look like. This is not exact, but it's a very close representation. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you,
Do you have
Owen.
anything you want to add? Mark frozen?
Mark?
Oops, sorry about that. Yeah, no, I just wanted to say, one of the things that Owen is doing here by putting up the walkway is that it will be a lot more stable. I mean, a lot of people use that path to go from Pond 14 to Tony Andrews Farm. And this will make it a lot more stable because they're also going to have handrails too. When we're out there, we sort of discussed that, there's really not much digging at all. I mean, it was just for the post to, the post hole digger, and that's about it, which in no material will get into the water. I think that's about it.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mark. Thank
Oh,
you,
and I
Owen.
have one question. Where are you digging the post holes?
We're planning to dig it sort of on the bank,
Okay.
not too close to the stream. That will we're just trying to have it that it's going to be like easy to have it supported, but not have anything in the stream that will hinder the water flow.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, and that was one of the things when Owen just discussed, that where it is now, it's pretty low. So the boards are going to extend, further landward. So, you won't be anywhere near the stream now, like you said. So that's great.
Excellent. Good luck, Owen.
Thanks,
you.
Owen. May I sign off?
You can
Not
send.
yet.
Oh,
Not yet. Don't sign off yet.
Okay.
All right. Anybody have anything to add?
I do, Jamie.
Go ahead.
Just a couple of things. Owen, that creek that you're crossing connects Pond 14 to Flax Pond. Everybody on our board knows it because they've approached the creek from a different direction if they haven't been on this trail. And just a comment, it was announced that this was the southwest corner of Pond 14. If you don't know this is on the southeast corner of Pond 14. And Owen, we may call on you because Mark and I are working on a next phase of restoration where we're going to need some little bridges. So this is kind of a trial.
Okay.
And we really appreciate this. I've sent Mark some pictures of some of your colleagues, some of the other Eagle Scout projects had benches on the lower part of the river. And I go out there at least once a week, sometimes a couple of times a week. And there have been lots of people using those benches. So these Eagle Scout projects are well used and well appreciated.
Excellent. Anything else? All right. Good luck, Owen.
Good luck, Owen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Owen.
All right. Next up, Victoria Lowell to discuss town meeting article regarding punch bowl repairs needed. Jen?
I'm promoting Vicky Lowell up.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Vicky.
I don't know. It's not my computer, so I don't know if my video is going to come on or not. Is there some, I don't know if I have to click something for that.
Yes, it says start video. Usually at, well,
Where?
on mine it's on the top. Could be at the
See,
bottom.
I'm mute. I know. Well, I'll just start talking. I'm probably not that great looking anyhow. I filed this article. The history of it is that, as you know, Mr. Lilly gave the town BB Woods. He bought it, and it took a while, but in 1976, he gave BB Woods to the town, and it was put under the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission. And 30 years later, or a little less, there was the issue that brought things to a head at that point was that there was concern about making the woods more accessible for fire protection. And so there was a lot of discussion about that, and they created asked for volunteers to come up with a management plan for BB Woods. And I volunteered and then was made chairman of the BB Woods Working Group Management Plan. And we spent over a year and a half investigating and coming up with a plan and suggestions. And one of the areas that we were concerned about was the punch bowl. And I'm just going to read you what we wrote in the plan. It says, a significant erosion problem exists at the punch bowl. It results from the steep pitch of the access paths and is exacerbated by the loss. Sorry, I don't have. Wait a minute. By the use of the rope hanging from a tree that extends over the pond. An engineering solution needs to be devised, funded, and implemented for the erosion problem. Erosion will only worsen as the tree roots are exposed, leading to increasing degradation of the water quality and habitat of the punch bowl. Erosion is less, but also a problem at Ice House Pond. So I've been very patient. How long ago was 2006? And nothing has happened. And now it isn't just an environmental problem of erosion. It's really getting down to the shore of the punch bowl. It's really a public safety issue. There's very deep gullies. There's and where I think it might have been an Eagle Scout project where stones were laid down. There's two major access points to the shore of the punch bowl. A very big granite boulders were put down, but now there's so much erosion around them. It was like walking from jump to jump. I mean, there's like a foot and a half fall off at the edge of the boulders. So anybody other than a very agile young kid would find it quite threatening to go to the edge of the punch bowl. So in October, I imagine you might have a copy of the memo I sent, hoping that I could prod the Conservation Commission into coming up with a work plan to actually fix the problems. And I know these things take a while to unfold. So, so I decided I'd file an article for town meeting just to try to spark some action, because I'm on the outside, so I can't really do much myself. But I do feel like for 15 years, I've sort of been wondering if this was ever going to happen, and it hasn't. So I'm just hoping the Conservation Commission will take the lead. It is under your jurisdiction, and I know your resources are limited, but I think you also have the ability to seek the resources you need, whether it's the help of the DPW or getting funding to hire somebody from the outside to fix the situation. And that's all I want to do. I don't have a specific fix in mind, but it isn't that easy to fix it because the slope is very steep and it starts way up above. It's a long slope. So you have to divert runoff. You have to maybe do terracing, maybe make steps, but I hope we can come up with a real fix. It's an open space and you think it's woods, but even woods, it's a natural park. Woods needs management. And I know the Conservation Commission hasn't had much time or instinct to take on a lot of management. I just think the BB Woods is a wonderful asset for the town, and it just needs some help. It needs some management. And so the whole purpose of my article was I was hoping even maybe by January, the Conservation Commission would follow its own article, but it didn't happen. So I went ahead and filed one. And I'm just encouraging you to go ahead and get something underway to fix that very bad situation. And it's also, I think as the Conservation Commission, you should be concerned about all the erosion that's happening there, which if it happened to somebody who was applying to the commission, you would be upset about it. The Ice House pond situation is also erosion, and there's at both of them, there's big fans of sediment that have created almost like beaches. That one is easier to fix because the slope isn't it's not very extended, but the gullies going down to the Punch Bowl on the the north east corner are just amazing. It's like 2 and 3 foot gullies, and just roots up in the air. All the soil's washed away. So I'm just encouraging. So I'm hoping, but the Finance Committee, I know, is not going to recommend the article because we don't have enough of although Mark Casper has wonderfully been involved in going out and looking at it and coming up with ideas for what could be done there, it hasn't gotten far enough along to have a cost estimate. So the Finance Committee is not going to recommend it at this town meeting, but I'm encouraging you to get something ready for the November town meeting, whether it's through the DPW or whether you have to hire outside help. But it needs to start with an as-built, a plan of what's there now and how much water has to be diverted and how it could be done. So
it might take a two-pronged approach because, I guess, thank you for filing an article. At least it'll be on town meeting's mind. I can try to put in a capital request, but, Mark and I will have to determine this summer if that capital request is going to be for design. And then we'll have to go back to the following year for construction money, or if we could do it all at once. So that's something when Mark and I talked with you the other day, that's something that we'll explore this spring and summer so we can bring something to get the ball rolling to town meeting in the capital request.
Well, I'm even wondering if now you should just put up some signage just saying, I'll be, caution, this is, dangerous situation or whatever they would do there, because it's really bad. And I was hoping that we could get design money at this town meeting and then be ready for construction in the fall. But it's been 15 years. I can wait another year.
Without a plan?
What? But it's heavily used. You can't keep people from wanting to go to the edge of a pond, a beautiful pond like the Punch Bowl. But I encourage everybody who can to walk out there and just look at it yourself. I took a lot of photos, which I submitted some of them to you. But photos don't even do it justice. Mark, you can add, Mark, it's a pretty bad situation out there, right?
No, I went out there. I'm well aware of how bad, the gullies.
So I felt a little proprietary because we put a lot of work into that management plan. I hope one of you will read it just out of interest. I think it was very well done. We had a great committee, and it was when Karen Wilson and Eric McLaughlin were involved in it, and Bob Ament and Tom Stone and Maureen Conte. We put a lot of effort into that, and it's always sad to see nothing happen. But from the outside, it's hard for me to push. I'm counting on you guys to do it.
Well, like I said, Vicki, it's something Mark and I will work on this summer, spring and summer, and see if we can't get something to for the capital request. So putting it in town meeting's mind, thank you for that. And hopefully that will, hopefully this fall in the capital request, it will be looked favorably on. But all I can do is put in the request. I cannot guarantee the money.
Yeah, well, I think it's a very attractive project. I mean, we don't spend a lot of money on land management and open space, and I think it needs to be done. The BB Woods is very popular, so I'm pretty optimistic you'll get funding, and I hope the commission itself will endorse your efforts. I don't know if you need a vote, but some kind of resolution encouraging you to go ahead and do it.
No, we're going to do it. Mark and I, when we spoke to you, we said we would do it.
Well, I'm not questioning that, but I always think it's appropriate for a public body to also endorse doing it. So I'm certainly not contesting the recommendation they're going to make it for this town meeting, which is to postpone it. But I just think the more support we can show for it, then when we get to the fall, there'll be everybody I've talked to personally thinks, oh yes, we need to fix the punch bowl. So, and it's not like the Conservation Commission asks for lots and lots of money all the time for land management. So anyhow, I hope I don't see too many smiles, but you can't even see me. I don't know why my picture didn't show up, but anyhow. Thanks.
No, I think it's a good idea, Vicki, and I appreciate you filing the article.
It isn't just a good idea. It really needs to be done. It's unsafe. It's a public safety thing. And I feel pretty strongly about it. I mean, there's things in the world that are much more important than getting safe access to the punch bowl, but it's under the Conservation Commission jurisdiction, and I think it needs to be done. And you've done an amazing job at Coonamessett River. Maybe you can put a little of that same energy into the punch bowl. So I'll sign off. I think you've heard enough of me.
Commissioner comments. Maury.
I just had one comment. I actually walked out there about a month and a half ago and concur with Vicki. It's in tough shape since I remember when the management plan was being done. And it has had substantial erosion, just like the knob, just like anywhere that's beautiful and popular, it just gets a lot of use and abuse. And I think that maybe just us supporting it and, I don't know if we need an official vote, but to, give a little support and a little more traction to this would be helpful. And it's a big project. It's not just the access alone is a Herculean effort to get what you need to get out there. So, it'd have to go up for an RFP. I mean, it's got a lot of moving parts to get it to where it could get repaired and designed and funding and, it's a lot. But I would like to just make a motion that, we as a commission do support, making this a priority or at least putting it on our radar.
Okay. Courtney?
I would get a little more specific. I agree with Maury. My feeling is that what we really need is to advocate for, I don't know whether you call it a study, whatever the terminology is, to get a real cost estimate and an analysis of scope of work and get the funding for that. So then the next step, we can get the money from the town to do whatever restoration needs to be done. I think we should be more specific, not just say we think it's a great idea. So I would support a motion to that effect. I'm not sure what the exact wording is, but.
I could never get my picture.
Oh, Maury made the motion. You can make a second if you'd like.
I'll second it and then offer an amendment to get more specific.
Well, I think a motion is simply to endorse the idea. Is that the right way to put it?
Yeah, 'cause
Betsy,
I
you had
think,
something?
I have two comments. One is, obviously, I've been involved in a lot of projects like this. And Maury's absolutely correct. This is a project that needs a conceptual plan. There has to be there has to be a survey done on site, and Mark's already working with DPW on getting something like that done. There has to be a conceptual plan. There has to be discussion on that conceptual plan. There has to be an engineering plan, and then there has to be funding. All the engineering plan, the conceptual plan, if they're not done by the town, and they probably won't be done, construction won't be done by the town, are going to require RFPs, and they're going to require money. And the best way to do it is to try to get some grant money. But it's easier for you to say, Vicki, why don't we put the energy that we put into the Coonamessett into this project? But I put a lot of that energy in, and this is your priority. This is not necessarily my priority. And I just want to point out, I'm sure you didn't mean to sound this way, but you sounded as if there isn't any conservation management done. But I can tell you, I know a small amount because I work with Mark on some of the projects. There's a tremendous amount of conservation management being done. Yes, on a shoestring budget. Yes, with additional grants that we've been able to get. But it's good that you brought this up, and it's something that can be done, but it's not necessarily an easy task.
not an easy fix.
Well, can I speak again?
Sure.
I'm not saying it's easy. That's the problem. If it was easy, it could have been done in the past. And then I'm not criticizing. All I could say is I think Conservation Commission in general could seek more funding on a regular basis for land management. But that's not a criticism. That's like trying to help you. and so I know you've done tremendous work on Coonamessett River, and it's a wonderful project. And this isn't really my priority. It's all the people that go to the punch bowl. I'm getting old and lame. I can't go to the punch bowl very often, but it's been bothering me that nothing happened there. And so I'm trying to get it to the fore. That's all. I'm not trying to criticize you. I'm just trying to encourage you. Let's put it that way.
All right. Anything else? All right. So, Maury, correct me if I'm wrong. Your motion is to
support pursuing options on the land management of the punch bowl.
Okay.
Erosion, specifically the erosion.
Okay. Courtney, does your second stand?
My second stands. I just think we need to take it to be more specific and say we need a analysis, a scope of work, whatever it takes. Betsy kind of outlined the kinds of things that need to be done next.
Yeah, again, we're just
I'm fine with
endorsing the
this
concept.
as long as that's not the end of it.
No.
No, I don't think it's the end. It's just the tip of the iceberg.
Right, but in other words, I don't want to have a nice motion and we go, yay, we feel good, and and then Vicki comes back in another 15 years, God willing, and says we haven't done anything. Vicki, you and I are getting up in years. We can't afford to wait.
No, you'll have to helicopter me in.
All right, if there's nothing further, we have a motion and a second to endorse the concept of this plan, concept. So, Betsy.
Godfelder, aye.
Courtney. Courtney?
Bird, aye. You faded out. I couldn't hear.
Sorry. Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Harris, aye.
Walsh, aye.
Patton, aye. It is unanimous. We are endorsing this concept. Thank you, Ms. Lowell.
Thank you, Vicki. We'll be reaching out to you this spring and summer for some ideas.
Well, thank you, and thank you, Mark. He's already put a lot of work into it.
Yeah, we'll get there, Vicki. I mean, you know, like I know Courtney was saying about coming up with plans, and as Betsy, and like Jen was saying, or Betsy was saying, you know, DPW is going to help to get us some plans on the contours out there, and you know, we have some ideas in mind. So
Yeah, well, it's hard, and maybe anyhow, I appreciate your taking it on, and I will obviously keep watching. But yeah, I know it's hard to get things done, and it's because of the steep length of the slope. It's long and steep. It's not an easy fix. So, but we have to start somewhere. So thank you.
Thank you, Vicki.
Thank you. Next up, vote minutes, February 9, 2022.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes with any modifications that people might want to make at this point.
Bird, second.
Okay. Does anybody have anything they want to submit? We have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as submitted. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve. Pat and I. It is unanimous. We have accepted the minutes of February 9th. Thank you, Kristen. Next up are requests for continuance under a notice of intent. First up, Byron Missef and Susan Keller, 72 Pheasant Lane, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to expand and alter an existing licensed fixed pier and ramp. Ben?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until April 27th. And before you ask, Courtney, before you ask, we were on a Zoom call with them today. It's morphed into a lot bigger of a project, and there's a lot of tricky elements to it. So we're trying to get those ironed out before we come back to the commission.
Fine. Bird, so moved. We adopted continuance.
Carlo Hawks, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to continue this till April 27th. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve, and I. It is unanimous. We have continued this until 4/27. Next up, 267 Clinton Ave LLC, 267 Clinton Ave, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to install and maintain an on-site Title V septic system upgrade, leaching field bed, and dewatering control system. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until March 16th.
So moved, Carlo Hawks.
Bird, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this hearing until March 16th. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve. Pat and I. It is unanimous. We have continued this hearing until March 16th.
Jamie, may I make a comment? Okay, so I'm not going to be here on the, yes?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm not going to be here on the 16th, but this is just, presumably they'll have a new plan. They have, and this is something Steve brought up the other day, they have something labeled as a railroad tie. And that should be changed to a landscape timber. Jen, if you're working with the people.
I remember that comment.
Okay.
All right, next up are requests for determination of applicability. First up, Elaine Griffel, 10 Rawson Street, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to remove an existing patio, to pour a cement patio, and to perform minor regrading. Ms. Bergeron?
Yes, the applicant is requesting a continuance until March 9th.
Heard,
So moved.
I move
All right,
to continue that.
we have a motion and a second to continue this RDA until March 9th. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks eye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Aye.
It is unanimous. We've continued this until March 9th. Next up, Paul and Barbara Nazaro, 62 Eel River Road, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to remove and relocate an existing timber pile and to install a boat lift. Ms. Bergeron?
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Harris, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks eye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Catherine F. Abbott, Peter W. Abbott, and Alexander O. Abbott, 207 Metoxet Road, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct 2 additions and a front porch. Ms. Bergeron?
Staff recommends a -2 under the bylaw and a -3 under the state. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Harris, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks eye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Diane M. Perry, 367 Grand Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to repair an existing failed septic system, install a new Title V septic system, and restore the driveway. Ms. Bergeron?
Thank you. Staff recommends a -2 under the bylaw and a -3 under the state. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Harris, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks eye.
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Christopher and Bryce Reddy, 12 Buzzards Bay Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a porch with above addition. Ms. Bergeron?
Staff recommends a -2 under the bylaw and a -3 under the state. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Harris, second.
We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks eye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Gemma H. Haplin Cox, 140 Racing Beach, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to reconstruct a section of roof with a full shed dormer. Ms. Bergeron?
Staff recommends a -2 under the bylaw and a -3 under the state. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Harris, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Paula Webster, 95 T-Ticket Path, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct a half-story addition. Ms. Bergeron?
Recommends a -2 under the bylaw and a -3 under the state. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Harris, second.
We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, William Drynan Jr., 163 Worcester Court, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to remove a one-story structure and construct a two-story structure on the existing foundation. Ms. Bergeron?
Staff recommends a -2 under the bylaw and a -3 under the state. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move. Is this a floodplain issue?
Part of it's in the floodplain and part of it is within 100 feet of a coastal bank, but it's the existing foundation, existing footprint, just a new structure.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Harris, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Nyes Neck Association, care of Eric Savage, Westwood Drive, map 04-02B-041-046, North Falmouth, Mass, for permission to install an osprey pole platform and support structure by hand. Ms. Bergeron?
Mark, I saw you unmuted. Did you want to talk about this at all?
No, thanks.
Just checking. Staff recommends a -2 under the bylaw and a -3 under the state. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Harris, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. All right, Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Gus Widmeyer, trustee, care of Vineyard Sound Land Company, 21 Wheeling Avenue, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to install an osprey pole platform and support structure by hand. Ms. Bergeron?
Yes, the applicant has withdrawn their application.
All right. Next up, Chris Cavallaro, 234 Meadow Neck Road, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to install an osprey pole platform and support structure by hand. Ms. Bergeron?
Staff recommends a -2 for the state bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Gladfelter, so moved.
Harris, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Yellow Hawk's eye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up are continued requests for determination of applicability. First up, Thomas Saviero, 87 Santuit Road, North Falmouth, Mass, for permission to remove an existing propane tank and install a new propane tank and generator. Ms. Bergeron.
Yes, the applicant has withdrawn their application.
Sorry, say that again.
The applicant has withdrawn their request.
Okay, thank you. Next up, Deborah H. McNiven, Lot 1, Ostrom Road, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct a single-family dwelling with all associated clearing, grading, and landscaping. Ms. Bergeron?
Yes, the applicant has requested a continuance until March 16th.
Bird,
So moved.
Harris, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this request until March 16th. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
Brian, I.
Maury,
Yellow Hawk's eye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until March 16th.
Jamie, we have a chat for the RDAs. Barbara Schneider just wants to say thank you for supporting the Osprey project.
You're welcome, Barbara.
And,
Thank you,
Wendy,
Barbara.
It was
Just
Mark's
wanted to-
compelling arguments.
So I just wanted to sign off. Thank you all for hearing the other business, and good luck tonight. And I'll see you on the funny papers.
All right, bye, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Good night.
Mark, thanks for all your work.
Next up, requests for hearings under notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. As a reminder, commenting is limited to 3 minutes, so I encourage you to stay within the purview of this board, which are the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw, and how they pertain to a particular application. The chair reserves the right to stop any commenting that is disparaging or inconsequential to the hearing. First up, Mark W. Comstock and Margaret A. Fitzgerald, 29 Miami Avenue, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to demolish an existing single-family dwelling, construct a new single-family dwelling, and install mitigation plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've promoted Tom Bunker up for him to present his project.
Excellent. Mr. Bunker, you're up, sir.
All right, thank you, Jen and Commission and Chairman and all. For the record, my name is Tom Bunker. We at BSS Design have prepared this plan, which I'll show you for 29 Miami Ave to take the house down and put up a new house, which I hope you'll find that it's in conformance with the regulations. I will share my screen now if I may.
Thank you.
And pull up the plan. Okay, there it is. You can see that. Show you just our little locus map here. The property is on the east side of Miami Ave, adjacent to Little Pond. This is just north of Jericho Path, south of Lake Lehman Road in this location. And pardon my coloring job here. We have this existing house, which has probably been there since the 50s. I'm not sure I wrote that down anywhere. But it is an older house. Back 10 years or 8 years ago or so, we did an RDA to upgrade the septic system. And of course, since then, it's been connected to the town sewer, the line going through here. The resource areas we have on or near the site, of course, we have Little Pond in this location, and there's kind of a wide salt marsh area here, which is kind of held in. There's a like a sand spit south of here and this salt marsh is probably in a protected area behind that sand spit, and then a slope coming up to a flat area on the lot. Now this area over the pond and part of the land is in flood zone V15, elevation 15, and of course we have the 25-foot Falmouth velocity zone running through this location here, and the coastal bank runs along this location. It is steeper than 4 to 1. So in one location up here, it's well above flood zone, but it does flatten out. There's some flat areas like this. The lawn goes somewhat over the top of the bank. The bank is well vegetated with English ivy and native oak trees. See, we have determined or shown a limit of work along the north property line, along the coastal bank, just inland from the tree, and across back here. So all these trees are to remain. There's one 14-inch oak tree in this location to be removed, and the proposed house here. So I have the existing house shown in this gray line through here. So it is moved back. It's wider, it's bigger, it is moved back and squared off with the lot lines. Where before it was right up here in this location. The closest point is about 12 feet to the coastal bank, 12 feet here, 14 feet here to the coastal bank. And actually I have quite a bit more of that because of the more setback from the coastal bank, 31 feet from the coastal bank in this location, 19 feet in this location, because of the amount of mitigation required. And he wanted lawn, he pushed that back to 30 feet from the roadway, which was pushed a little bit out of the zone A into the zone B. And so we end up with this bit of mitigation and some lawn area here. And that's 1,400 square feet of mitigation. And an oak tree proposed here. And of course, Alyssa noticed that there's wires up above there in this location. And the tree is proposed right about in here. But people generally these days, she suggested we should move the tree so it won't interfere with the wires. But generally, people will put the utilities underground. I'm sure that will happen, but I do have I expanded this note right here, saying that this is just in response to the staff report, so I haven't printed it and sent it to you, but I can do so. If utility wires are proposed overhead in this location, the tree must be placed elsewhere in zone A after consultation with conservation staff. And so if the wires, because a utility pole right here, so if the wires do go overhead near here, then we'll consult with you and put it where you feel is the best. There was one other, there was a errant coastal bank label. This coastal bank label was pointing to somewhere else, so that has been changed also. Also in the staff report, Alyssa did ask if if the shed was permitted, and I did not have time to look and see if it is permitted, so I don't know the answer to that question. That is what we are proposing. I will take this down and take questions.
Thank you, Tom. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Well, Tom, if we can't determine if the shed was properly permitted, then you won't be able to use it for existing coverage. So there might have to be a small adjustment in your calculations. But the board can decide that when they issue an order. And I think you addressed all of our other points, unless Alyssa has anything to add.
I don't, thank you.
All right. We'll start with commissioner comments. Betsy.
Hi, Tom. So you have a tree for the tree you're taking down. Do you have a tree for the mitigation?
You know, just I was going through this, I was mentioned that tree, and I said, you know what, I'll bet Betsy's going to. It wasn't intentional, but I don't have a tree for that, so I'll have to add another tree.
I knew you'd be disappointed if I missed it.
I counted on you for that. That's why I left it out.
Okay, thanks, Tom. That's all, Jamie.
All right. Courtney.
Bert, I don't have any questions.
All right. Kevin.
No questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Maury. You're muted.
No
Maury.
questions.
Oh, thank you. Pat.
No questions, thank you.
Peter.
No questions. Thank you.
Steve.
I don't have any questions. I always like to see homes that move back from the resource area. Thank you, Tom. Even if it was for a pragmatic reason, it's a great look.
Excellent. All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function?
There's nothing in the public chat regarding this project, and nobody appears to have their hands raised to comments.
All right.
In that case, I'll offer a motion to close this hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird, second.
Kara, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close this hearing. If there's no further comments and there's no public comments, I'm going to call for the vote. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat.
Harris, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Bunker.
Thank you. Good night.
Aye.
Good night, Tom.
Hi, Tom.
All right. Next up, Robert, Carol Whalen, and Robert Armstrong, east end of Ferry Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct and maintain a set of access stairs over the coastal bank, to restore the coastal bank, to install a fence and all associated grading and landscaping. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm promoting Jeff Johnson from Holmes and McGrath. He's making another guest appearance before us tonight, and Bob Ahmed from Clower Law Firm. Bob, Jeff, is there anybody else coming up?
No, Jen.
Nope. Okay, excellent.
Who's presenting?
I'll begin, Mr. Chairman. As you know, I'm Bob Ahmed, a Falmouth attorney. I represent the applicants. Jeff Johnson is with me from Holmes and McGrath. The applicants are long-time property owners in Seapit. The applicants are requesting approval of a very small set of stairs down from a bank on the east end of Ferry Road. It goes over an eroding bank to the small area of beach. And the structure will indeed be small. The footprint of the stairs and the landing will be only about 60 square feet in total. An important part of the request is the storage of 2 dinghies on the stair structure, one mounted on each side. Now, Jeff is going to share his screen and show some exhibits, just starting with the Assessors Map, so you all know where we're talking. You can see where Ferry Road ends at the Seapit River. Can you do that, Jeff? Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
No.
So while Jeff's doing that, I'm going to spend about 3 minutes reviewing the history of the site. And about 1895, the town issued a permit for a hand-operated ferry between the end of what became Ferry Road, which Jeff has marked at Locus, and Washburn Island, which you can see in the lower right-hand side of that assessor's map. It was in the 1920s that Seapit was subdivided. About 180 lots were created in the 1920s. And on the 1926 Land Court plan, we see Ferry Road, called Ferry Road at the time. Now, sometime we have an aerial we were going to show. Sometime around 1960, it may have been earlier, but by 1960 there was a pier. You can, Jeff can show you the pier, but it's right in the middle of that picture. That's it. And that pier was there for about 50 years. It had a set of stairs coming down to a walkway and a bulkhead behind it, and it was used by all the neighbors, but particularly the neighbors who, like their waterfront owning neighbors, did not have access to the river. So it was well used and enjoyed. We have some photos from various years that just give you an idea of how important this was. That's the pier. You can see a bit of the stairs down below. The lower picture from 2011 shows the pier, the walkway behind the pier, the bulkhead, and the steps going down. These are just pictures of people using the piers over the year. That little boy in 1988 is Bobby Whalen, the son of the applicants, who is now about to become next month the executive officer of a destroyer at Pearl Harbor. And he and his brother, who's also on a ship in the Mediterranean, really got their start on the water at Seapit. The pier predated the Conservation Commission, but it never had been licensed by the state, although that's something that isn't terribly unusual and could have been remedied. Superstorm Sandy hit Falmouth in late October 2012. It caused significant damage, and before the storm, the decking had already been removed from the pier. The decking was removed every year, but they removed it before the storm. It was stored behind that bulkhead. We have a photo that shows that. And there was, that's a picture taken after the storm. You can see the pilings, the decking has already been removed. The pilings and the cross braces, which you can see were not, don't appear to be damaged at all. The stairs are still there, as you can see, and you can see the bulkhead behind the stairs also intact. Those are the, that's the decking behind the bulkhead in a picture taken from the stairs. Now, after the storm, those the decking was removed and carried up the stairs and stored in the upland, which where usually would be stored in the off season. Now the bulkhead farther down, you can see some of it in front of the abutter's property, was apparently more damaged, and an NOI was filed in December of 2012, shortly after the storm, to replace it, and an order of conditions was issued for that in October of in January of 2013. That NOI application and the order itself make no mention at all of the community dock or the stairs nearby, or even of this bulkhead that's in front of Ferry Road. And what happened afterwards was, somewhat remarkable, and is really what leads us to today. The abutter apparently convinced staff that he owned that community pier, which had been there for 50 years, and that it was significantly damaged. Maybe it appeared that way because there wasn't any decking on the pier, but the pictures really speak for itself. The walkway was disconnected from the stairs to the dock. It's a rather short distance. So there was some damage, but it was certainly not beyond repair. But maybe because of the emergency conditions after the serious storm, without a hearing, apparently there was oral permission to the abutter to actually remove the pilings and the steps and that bulkhead. And remarkably, that's what happened. There was no notice to the many neighbors who used the pier. There was no hearing before that. All of that was removed. There really wasn't any written permission given, but it happened. And that led to years and years of efforts by a few of the neighbors, including today's applicants, to restore it. But the efforts to get the dock restored, even a modern dock, which would have been better, were not allowed by the commission because regulations had changed. The Superior Court upheld the commission, although the DEP had issued a superseding order that would have allowed it. And the neighbors, in the meantime, took the position that there were no rights to use Ferry Road to get to the water. And that ended up being litigated in the land court for 5.5 years. That's right, 5.5 years of litigation on that issue. And it was finally resolved with a settlement accepted by the court, whereby the abutters on each side of the road acknowledged the rights of the neighbors to use Ferry Road, and specifically said that they would not object to a set of stairs and minimal storage of boats, just really what we proposed, one dinghy mounted on each side of the stair structure. And that brings us to today. That's the history. It's been a very, very difficult number of years. You can see from the photos we showed how important what was there was to the neighbors. And what we're trying to do is get safe access to the water where the bank is presently eroding. Now, I think maybe worth noting that a neighbor who removed the piers has sold that property. There are new owners who are supporting this request. Now, Jeff Johnson will describe the proposed construction and the reshaping and planting of the bank. In closing, what I want to note that the staff, while apparently supportive of the having access stairs down to the beach and the stabilization of the bank, has expressed concern about any boat storage. And again, I want to point out how important that is. The dinghies, when there was a dock, could be kept on the dock and used to access the couple of boats that neighbors have on moorings in the river. We think this is approvable, and that the concern about the limited boat storage can be addressed. One of the requirements of the land court settlement filed in the court is that there be an association established to construct and to manage and maintain the steps. We think that the association can play an important role in avoiding adverse impacts of this development. You'll notice that at the bottom of Jeff's drawing, there's an area that Jeff's pointing out where the marsh, which has expanded considerably in recent years, still hasn't significantly reached. Jeff has done calculations and photographed the area, and it appears that there's an area where you can reach the water crossing over not more than 10 square feet. It's 10 square feet. It's the size of a little more than a good-sized desk of cordgrass. And what we would propose is that there actually be signage. Of course, members of the association would, get reminders not to cross into the water directly off of those steps and to avoid the salt marsh, but would be directed to a marked path that would simply have a couple of stakes with a sign, path to water. There could be a signage at the bottom of the steps that says, "Protect salt marsh, please use staked path into water." And so we think that the impact of the passage to the water, even with dinghies, will be minimal. And we hope that it's very important to the people, the applicants have, you can imagine years of litigation in the Superior Court and dealing with the DEP, going to the land court, being before the commission, doing all the engineering and design, and then the construction. It's a huge cost to trying to simply reestablish to some extent what they had. It won't be the same, but they will have, they set their goals on and resign to this result. And it's important that they get that out of it. I note that we're looking at a picture that shows a set of steps that are actually on the adjacent property on the north side of Ferry Road. There's a dinghy on the beach at the bottom of those steps. We've designed, and the plans show a way to store 2 dinghies mounted on the stairs. And the rule would be that there be no storage of boats, no other storage of boats at the end of the road there. So that's it. I hope Jeff can take over and describe what we're going to do.
Thank you, Bob. Good evening. I'm Jeff Johnson, wetland permitting consultant with Holmes and McGrath, representing applicants tonight. As Bob described, we're proposing the construction and maintenance of the access stairs over the coastal bank to the beach, with storage for 2 small boats stored on either side of the set of steps. We're also proposing restoration of the coastal bank, the installation of a fence at the landward edge of the stairs all the way across to prevent or deter pedestrian access over the bank, promoting it down the set of steps, and then and grading and landscaping. The wetland resource areas here include the land under the ocean, the land containing shellfish, band of salt marsh here shown in green, coastal beach, a very steep eroding coastal bank. Here it's running from elevation, approximately elevation 2 to elevation, currently about elevation 8 or 9. And then we have land subject to coastal storm flowage. The site is since 2014, when FEMA changed the designation for flood zones, this area is entirely within a velocity zone. The stairs will provide safe access over the bank and eliminate the accelerated erosion that's being caused by existing foot traffic over the bank. There is an existing fence that is precariously still standing at the top of this slope that is, and which slope is nearly vertical. The proposed plan reshapes the center portion of the coastal bank, cutting it back to make it slightly flatter to enable us to plant and restore the vegetation on the bank. The existing vegetation is all invasive vines, primarily bittersweet. So the present condition poses a significant danger, and we're promoting this safe access and restoring the bank. The structure is going to be located above the mean high water line, which is here, so that no Chapter 91 jurisdiction would be in play. We're not part, there's no portion of the work is within areas of the rare species as identified by the Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program. The timber stairs and landings will be elevated above the bank and supported by helical pilings. The technoposts, similar to the ones that were used over at the Two Ponds Conservation Area boardwalk over on Jones Pond off of Gifford Street. The use of the helical piles will enable us to set the support for the stairs at a deeper, sufficient depth, without having to excavate for or drive large pilings, and it will enable us to have these supports survive even as or if the erosion should continue. The bank is actively eroding. It's too steep to plant it as it is, and it's be basically two ways to stabilize it, with the installation of a coastal engineering structure or regrading the bank landward. You may all understand the complications that might be there to propose a coastal engineering structure, and we felt that the easiest way to stabilize the bank here would be to do some slight regrading and replant it. The planting plan that was submitted with the application was prepared by Blue Flax Design. It includes, let's see if I can Yes. Once the bank is regraded, that slope will allow the installation of a seeded erosion control blanket staked into the slope. And then the bank can be planted through the seeded erosion control blanket with native species. Blue Flax has proposed for this location primarily bayberry and mixed with switchgrass, both salt tolerant and drought tolerant species. There's no ongoing placement or soil or sand proposed here. We're not proposing any kind of toe stabilization. It's simply regrading and planting. Storage for the dinghies, for one dinghy is provided on each side of the bottom of the stairs. See if I can show you there's a section here where we're going to, dinghies will be stored on end with the stern to the ground. They can be laid onto the beach and then winched, and the bow winched up to the sides and then strapped in place to be stored so they're not resting on the beach or the salt marsh. The design of the stairs was confirmed and drawn by a structural engineer. The structural engineer plan here has been submitted and is part of the application with the multitude of structural engineering notes and so forth. And so let's see. So we have the stairs, the boat storage, and no other boats or any other materials will be stored on the beach or the salt marsh. As Bob mentioned, and in response to the staff's comments about potentially dragging the dinghies over the salt marsh, we have found this area at the south side of Ferry Road, closest to the existing bulkhead, an area that's approximately 4 feet wide, where there's only a few strands of cord grass found and calculated as less than 10 square feet of impact to this intermittent salt marsh area, where we can dedicate the access as Bob described. That access and can be incorporated into the homeowners association rules and the physical signage and stakes, as Bob described, would be there to discourage foot traffic and dragging boats over the salt marsh, directing it to the area at the narrowest point. In conclusion, the access stairway restores the community access that the applicants had used for many, many years at the east end of Ferry Road, and it's been cited and designed in accordance with the agreements. And we've designed it as to avoid and minimize the significant adverse effects on the resource areas. And we believe it conforms to the regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetland regulations. That I will close this out and figure out how to do that. And open it back up to questions. There we go.
Thank you, Jeff. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Couple of things. The staff has no concerns with the construction of the staircase itself to provide access down that. Obviously, the bank is being damaged from people either trying to access the water or just eroding. So that's fine. Jeff, how much of the bank do you have to, you basically have to lay the bank back in order to plant it? Okay. And Teresa thinks 1 gallon container bayberry and the switchgrass is the best thing for that. You are removing some existing Rosa rugosa on that bank.
Yes. We could incorporate some Rosa rugosa if you think that would help. But
you know why?
It was the erosion control blanket, seeded erosion control blanket was the initial application, and then have the bayberry and the switchgrass help hold it in place.
Yeah, but how is that 1 gallon, that those twigs, as Maury likes to call them, the twigs of the plants? I mean, how are those going to be maintained? How is the switchgrass going to be maintained? Who's going to be watering and maintaining those plantings?
Well, the applicant will be responsible to water and maintain them. We discussed this a little bit earlier today, and we don't have permission yet, but we have 2 favorable neighbors that we may be able to utilize access to for water, to water and maintain these plantings until they become established. And even without that, the plantings can be maintained if need be by bringing in water.
Just to elaborate,
The applicants are willing to do that, to maintain and stabilize that bank?
yes, we think that would be a requirement. There will be an association.
But there isn't an association now, Bob. So that's
I understand that the order of conditions is being issued to the individuals. They will be responsible. We will be creating, because it's actually a court requirement, creating of these stairs. So we have the land court saying, if you put in the stairs, you have to have an association. That's part of the settlement. So it's just as a fact that there will be an association. There are people with, obviously extremely keen interest in this. And if the requirement is that there be this successful stabilization with these plantings, they have to be maintained. And we do have, we believe, 2 friendly neighbors on the south side of Ferry Road now, close enough so that we think we'll be able to get water. And it's, I don't think it's unusual if a project involves planting, has to be maintained.
Okay, so that's going to be one of our concerns, is 1, how are these plantings going to be maintained, and 2, also the size of the bayberry that's being proposed. The switchgrass, I understand why she's using it. It's deep rooted. It'll quickly kind of lock in that bank. But the bayberry, we need to take a second look at. Usually, I mean, I've got to remind the board, this isn't a velocity zone. So usually the staircases in the velocity zone, the board sometimes requires them to be hinged up at the end in case of a storm event. So it's something you may want to consider. And the staff is just going to go on record to say that, you know, we are concerned with the storage of the boats. It seems like it's a little bit skirting our dock regulations. It doesn't allow docks in a velocity zone. And I am concerned with those boats being stored there, that it will encourage or invite additional boats to be stored there. And also that these boats will be dragged over that marsh. Reality is nobody's going to carry them over the marsh. They're going to be dragged over that marsh. That marsh has come back since that original staircase was removed. It really has rebounded quite nicely. It's nice to see, but I do have some real concerns with the storage of the boats. One, from a precedent standpoint, and two, also to really kind of protect that marsh. I'd prefer not to see the boats there. But as far as the staircases go, the staircase goes, we permit staircases down banks so people can access the water all the time. So staff doesn't have any real concerns with the staircase, only with, I'd say, Jeff, the gallon size of the plants and their survivability, and also with the storage of those two dinghies. Other than that, I don't think I have anything to add unless Alyssa has something to add.
My only additional comment is, I think in response to the staff report, the applicant is now suggesting the installation of signs to direct traffic to that area where the salt marsh isn't quite rebounded. Again, that is a velocity zone, so adding signage down there, I have concerns about. They would likely have to be installed landward of the staircase, in my opinion. But that would be up to the board.
All right. Anything else from staff?
Not at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I'll start with
Mr.
Commissioner
Chairman,
comment.
Could I just add, may I make a comment?
Go ahead.
Thanks. So as you've probably seen in your chat, one of the neighbors is agreeing to provide the water and help in the maintenance. So that's a big help. I just want to emphasize that the owners of the dinghies who used to keep their boats on off the dock would be committed to making this work. And the signage could be at the end or on the sides of the steps with a couple of stakes set that demark the area where there's the least salt marsh, will have the least impact. And as it is now, people could walk anywhere through that, and most of the traffic, if not all, we can't promise all, but it would be directed to a single place that presently has the least marsh. And it should work with minimal adverse impact. And given the history of what the community had, and to help get this project done, because I don't know if it will go forward without the major proponents of having the ability to keep just the dinghies. There'll be a lot of policing going on to making sure this works. And I think with a proper set of conditions in this unique situation where the bank is going to be significantly improved and a dangerous condition exists today, I think on balance, the commission should use its discretion to allow this proposal, and let's condition it so that it's most likely to work. Thanks.
Thank you. Courtney.
Couple of comments in a narrow sense. The dinghy storage mechanism that you have proposed there is a very interesting concept. And on the ground, I like it. But I'm concerned that in an exposed area like that, that in a really serious storm, that's going to become a sail. And I know you had a structural engineer design this, but I hope he's taken into account, hurricane force winds. Unless you're planning not to have dinghies stored at that point.
That certainly would be the intent.
Okay, so the second thing is, as I'm sure you're aware, David, Bob, and that is that it's been said many times that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And I've been hearing from you and from Jeff that, the neighbors are very concerned and want to see this work, and that they're going to all chip in and make sure that the bank gets maintained and all of that. And that's all great. It sounds terrific. But, I'd like to see something more definitive in terms of an agreement with a real management plan that specific people are signed off and held accountable for. I'm not sure how that's done. You're a lawyer, I'm not. But
well, I think there are a couple of things we can do, Courtney. One, the land court settlement requires that the association be established prior to construction. There could be a condition that it be reviewed and approved by the commission. And we can get into the refined details of this so that if there's signage that's required, we can, have examples of that, or we can actually be clear as to exactly what's going to be done. I also think you need to keep in mind, this is not a situation where nothing should be done. As one of the notes in your chat just points out, people are already, they drop boats down there and scramble down the steps. We have a dangerous situation. And I think the kind of control that we're proposing is this is an improvement. It's a significant improvement without.
Bob, I don't have an issue with, what's being proposed. I have an issue of accountability. As I'm sure you're well aware, that's what you do for a living.
Well, you do with every case.
And
you do it in every case.
So
people have to abide by the rules.
So, establishing an association and having specific provisions in there for who does what, when, and who's accountable, those are things that I think need to be established before we can, as part of the process. That's all.
Well, I think that.
Please. Why hasn't the association been formed already?
Well, we don't even have approval for a peer. We have individuals who have been spearheading this. You have letters of support for this from neighbors. We have a court.
I know you said that.
A court filing that requires this to be done. I don't think we should be faulted for not having created an association, which may require, creating an LLC or filing in the State House and so on. This has been a very, very long and very difficult, very expensive process. I don't think that the failure to have created the association before tonight, I don't think it even would occur to any of us that would have been a requirement of the commission.
Have a management plan.
You just said.
Jen?
We establish management plans all the time, Bob. And, the applicants are responsible. So, we want that spelled out. Now, if it means an association, that's fine.
Well, if there's it can be a condition that the association be established and it's, and again, an approved. If it could be before the
You'd be
decision is
okay with
issued,
the
that'd be one
establishment
thing,
of a-
but certainly before a building permit is issued.
So you would be okay with the establishment of that a requirement would be that before any work could begin, there would have to be an association established and a management plan approved by this commission?
Yes,
What you're saying?
and that's consistent with the agreement filed in the land court and accepted by the court.
Well, you know, we're the ones, I'm just asking you, are you comfortable with that kind of a condition? Because it sounds like it could be quite a while before we get the association up and running. They come
Well,
up
if
with
we
a
had,
management
if we
plan and
knew
all
we
of
had
that.
if we know we have an approval for this, we could do the association in a matter of weeks.
Why, yeah, well, I mean, I don't understand why you didn't do it already.
Anything else?
Anyway,
Gordon?
I think I've made my position clear. We don't need to go waste more time.
Not a waste. Mr. O'Brien.
I'm sympathetic to court's position and more so to this does set some precedents as far as I can see. And it concerns me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Maury.
I just had a couple comments. The square footage on the plans are different. And I have to agree with Jen. 15 Bayberry are pretty atrophic there. It's a very steep eroding coastal bank. We usually do one, 2 to 3 gallon, 3 foot on center. I'd like to see more of that and interplanted with the switchgrass, because that is a good way to hold the bank. But the woody indigenous at the top really does make a big difference. And I'm not a big fan of the split rail fence in a V zone. We've already got a dock in it, stairways going in the V zone, and there's enough vegetation there that can prevent people from going off. And as you said, it's very steep, so they haven't gone off. They're not going to go walking down unless they're on the ramp on their walkway. And to Jeff, you're not going to hardscape this. There's no dwelling on it, so you legally can never put armoring on it. So I think if anything, you should be considering some kind of soft stabilization there if it continues to erode the way it is. But armoring is never going to happen. The other thing is, I would like to see it with no boats, because it's called a landing and it's not called a dock. So it's just encouraging boats. And I agree with you that we can condition this, and I'm sure everybody's been reading the enterprise. The zoning board has problems with conditioning. The more conditions, we can't police conditions all the time. I know it's wonderful and utopic that we say nobody can drag them across the marsh and nobody's going to do this and nobody's going to do that. But unfortunately, that's what happens. And then 5 years or 8 years from now, we go back, the salt marsh is trashed. I mean, I have faith that people will do the right thing, but when you put too many conditions, that just means it's more policing that we have to do to make sure that it does go right. But that's out for debate. But again, more plants, I think they don't have to be 3 gallon, but at least 2 gallon. I mean, the one in the corner, she has 2 berries stuck right together to make the 15 that's in her count. So I don't know how she did that. And other than that, the signage I think would be very helpful, and maybe with an explanation of why you're asking them to do that. The protection of the salt marsh, some verbiage for that. And if you do have an association, maybe everybody has to read a contract that says this is what's going on here, and be good stewards, or else you'll get an enforcement, and that'll be then different avenues will be taken. Thank you.
You, Pat?
I have a problem with the boats as well. I agree with Courtney's comment that it'd be like having a sail set up with hardwood. And in a velocity zone. It doesn't look like a very clever way to protect the resource areas there. I also, this is an eroding coastal bank and it's got hard armory on either side. So it's being eaten away, which is what we always explain to applicants. If you have, space next to two hard arborings, they're going to be naturally eroded more vigorously. So are you making, well, I guess you don't need to make plans at this point, but I assume you will be making plans to put in soft solutions at some point, because as Maury said, hard armoring will not be allowed there. And Bob, could you please put into the record this settlement agreement you've been speaking about, as well as the agreement for judgment?
Yes, we'd be happy
Thank
to.
you.
Yeah, we'll be happy to do that.
Thank you.
And, we obviously, we have a difference of opinion about the boat storage, in the hope that we could have that allowed and with proper conditions. One possibility tonight is a continuance where we would submit those things. We can have Teresa Sprague make some changes to the planting plan, and we could put together a draft of the association and rules. I hate to do that if it's effort that will end up being wasted if because this is all, it's not the stairs that are the issue for you, it's the boats, it's the storage. And you're asking us to do a number of things that will be more work and more expense. And we'd like some confidence that the commission is truly open to this idea. We understand that the dinghy shouldn't be left on the stairs when there's a storm coming or an after season. I come back to the fact that people are already putting boats down there and getting into the water. This will be a very controlled situation with people who are very committed and neighbors who are parties to a court judgment that sets this out. We can also agree to, periodic reporting to the commission of it. I think it's the neighbors who are going to police this and make it work.
I have no further comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Peter?
A couple of comments. In my personal opinion, I don't think it's necessary for the association to be formed in advance. We could condition it, but some of the other things like the boat storage, I have some concerns about. And what I'm hearing is it's been, the use of the boats have been abusing the plants already, and it's not going to be worse with the two boat storage, but I don't like the marsh grass to be destroyed either. So that's it.
Steve?
I listened to everybody's comments. This area has been abused for a long time through stupidity, through anger, through various other functions that required, people thought they had access to it, they lost their dock, and they did used it. And it's been very interesting to watch over the years, let me say, and I have great sympathy for the abutters and their trials and travails over a period of time. and think the steps would definitely provide a long-term improvement to that area. And that's my comment.
Thank you. Betsy.
So, so first of all, I agree with Peter that I mean, this is how it started out. The association doesn't have to be formed yet. Nothing can be done until the association is formed. I mean, that's one of the conditions. But I think whether we agree with boat storage or not, I think one of the parts of the management plan has to be a storm management plan. And, you know, it's easy to say that we'll get those boats off the dock if there's a storm. But having gone through major hurricanes and people are worried about their own houses and properties and boats, the last thing you're going to think about is removing boats from that area. So I'm a little concerned what would happen. On the other hand, my understanding from the testimony here is that a number of these people have moorings right off this dock. Is that correct, Bob?
At least 2.
But they must have
There's no dock anymore.
Right. And there is a town landing about a quarter mile down the road. So it's not like people wouldn't have any access to those to the boats moored there.
Well, a quarter of a mile is a whole lot different than a short walk of a couple hundred feet from your home. That's a huge
that's true.
difference. And you know, and it's what was there for 50 years.
But my understanding is that the settlement with the land court was that there had to be access to the water. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
The settlement agreement with the land court was there had to be access to the water.
The settlement agreement in the land court acknowledged the rights of the plaintiffs and neighbors, the inland owners, and others. Actually, you know, the CPIT owners have the right to use Ferry Road to get to the water, and it was agreed that there could be steps and storage of 2 boats on somehow on that structure.
That was part of the agreement?
Yes, including a plan attached to the agreement filed in court that showed that the what was submitted to the Conservation Commission would have to be substantially like what was approved. And what you have before you meets that, and we're going to give you that settlement agreement.
Well, I definitely think we need a continuance because Pat asked you if you would put that in the record, and I would like to see those. I would like to see that agreement.
Yeah, I've got it. I have it right here.
I have a quick question, Mr. Chairman.
So you're done?
I'm done, Jamie.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Pat.
Just a quick clarification, Betsy. This is an agreement between parties. The court is not saying they have to have a staircase with boats. Just separate those 2 concepts. The court approved their settlement agreement, but it didn't say to the commission or to other people, you have to allow them to have a staircase plus these boats. Okay.
Yeah, that's certainly correct.
Yeah, I just want to see what was agreed upon.
But we're happy to share it. It's exactly what we're doing.
Nothing else, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Jen?
No, I just wanted to clarify that point, that there was an agreement between the parties. The land court isn't saying to this commission, you must allow these two boats. It is completely within the discretion of the commission.
Courtney?
Yeah, I just want to repeat that I have an issue with the intention of this project, what's designed. What I have an issue with is making sure that there's a clear management plan with responsible parties named and a mechanism to get things done. Because, again, as I said before, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And I want to make sure that the good intentions are codified. That's all.
Thank you. Jen, public chat comments. There's a ton of them, so if you can just read through them real quick.
I'm going to read through them. This one is from Jim Moore. So at the beginning, when we were talking about the plantings, I am one of the neighbors and I am happy to provide water and will be happy to maintain. We can extend a hose from my house. Thank you, sir. Someone named Allison, people have been dragging boats over the marsh without dinghy storage. Without the dinghy storage, at least this way we can control tabs, can direct tabs, control traffic. We will remove the boats prior to a storm. The bank is not being currently maintained. It will be in much better shape after the plantings. We have spent 10 years fighting this. We will not be lackluster about maintenance. We need approval for the stairs. Once we get approval, we will immediately set up an association. We don't need association without the stairs and storage. There's a precedent that the dock and stairs were already there. Grandfather clause should be taken into this account in this case, to assist with setting a precedent. The neighbors will be policing this. It is only us using it. This is a quiet, responsible neighborhood. People store boats prior to storms. Does the panel have an alternative suggestion for boat storage? We could confirm, and then again, Jim Omar, I think, could we confirm you are acceptable to the stairs? Could we at the very least start with this to avoid further erosion? It will bring stability. Again, Allison, it's not if it's your boat. I think this is what Betsy was talking about storms and boats. Boaters always shore up their boats prior to a storm. We have an application for a mooring. Land court is saying that we can have stairs and a dock storage, and I think we just clarified that. And excuse me, and we must have a neighborhood association form prior to the stairs going in. And I think that was about it, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
And I just want to reiterate to the board and to the applicants and the concerned abutters that the staff has, we don't have any concerns with the stairs, but we do have concerns with that boat storage, and mainly because we don't want damage to that marsh, which has really come back over the years, and it's quite nice to see.
We could have the stairs installed, which everybody seems to think is a good idea. And you could approve the boat storage, but with the requirement of monitoring and a requirement that if the marsh is, significantly damaged because of the misuse of that storage, that the facilities for the storage of boats on the stairs be removed. That'd be a pretty easy thing to do, I would think. If the boat storage is, built to be there, it could be removed. And there would be a significant incentive of for the people who are enjoying the boat storage to follow the rules, and there could be an annual reporting required with photographs and so on. I don't want to create a mechanism that becomes a very expensive burden. I don't want to have to have the applicants hire at a considerable expense wetlands consultants, but I think that there could be a condition that would be a continuing condition that says, yeah, you can have this storage there as long as you, prove to us regularly, ongoing, that this is working, that the association is, keeping it working right. And I think that would be a real good way to address your concerns.
All right, what are we thinking?
Well, we obviously need a continuance. We're going to submit the court settlement. We're going to revisit the landscaping design. I would like to think that we don't have to create the association. That's a bunch of work. And there's no sense in doing it if we don't get approval. So on the other hand, if we come back and don't have the association, I'd hate to have you say, well, we need the association done. So with some guidance on that'd be helpful. We'd obviously like a continuance. Maybe a month should be sufficient to do obviously we could do overnight the submission of the settlement agreement. But if we have to revise the plans, we need a little bit of time for that. If we needed the association, we'd have to have even longer.
Hey, Jen, what do you think of for dates?
Okay, I'm not on mute. We could, they could have the 16th. Bob, the earliest we could put you on was 16th, which means everything's in by next week. Or
just said a
you're
month.
looking at the 30th or the 6th of April.
Well,
or even, later if you wanted.
Well, again, if it doesn't include creating an association, the 30th would be fine. I'd like to, what is the, we could certainly come up with some proposed conditions, but we could make it the 30th and we'll see if we're ready. We certainly could have I assume have a revised plan.
Okay, 30th. So at the request of the applicant, I'll make a motion to continue to March 30th.
Second.
And Jamie, I have a comment before the vote. So my comment is to you, Bob, that my concern with the boat storage isn't so much of getting the boats from the dock to the ocean. It's what happens if there's a major wind or storm wave event in the area. So just for you to think about that.
All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yeah. Just for clarification, the petitioners said, do we think an association needs to be formed before we review this case again? And I think we ought to give them an answer. I would think I would agree with Peter that when they have approval, that could.
I already agreed with Peter.
My 2 cents is I'm not so much concerned about the association proper being formed, but a management plan. So Bob, even if you guys could work on a draft management plan, that would work for me.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Who's going to take care of things? Who's going to water and so forth. Steve, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was elaborating on your question. Okay, anybody else?
A condition in the order that they need to form a homeowners association covers us, as was pointed out by Betsy and Peter. There's no reason to require them to do that work in advance of an order.
All right, if there's nothing further, we have a motion and a second to continue this till March 30th. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Byrne, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Fellow Hawks eye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until March 30th. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Thank you, Mr. Ahmed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You've been great.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, next up. Continued hearings under notice of intent. Wild Harbor Estates Homeowners Council Trust, 0 Birch Lane, map 0414, parcel 000198, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a 6-foot by 45-foot kayak rack. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am promoting Mike Borselli up to present his project along with Peter Hussey from the Wild Harbor Association.
I'm sorry, Betsy, can we confirm quorum?
Yeah, the quorum is Courtney, Betsy, Jamie, Peter, Pat.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Mr. Borselli, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the commission, for the record, my name is Michael Borselli from Falmouth Engineering. I represent the applicant. Peter Hussey from the Homeowners Association is also with me tonight.
Good evening.
And with your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Subsequent to the last public hearing, we considered options and revised the plan to propose a substantial amount of mitigation planting. And it's shaded in green, and it totals 1,200 square feet in this area of the existing dune. The association considered other options for the proposed kayak rack, and none of them, in their opinion, are truly viable. So they're still proposing the kayak rack to be located in this position. And we're hoping that the mitigation planting can convince you, along with a narrative that was submitted to the record by Mr. Hussey, to find a way to make findings and conditions that result in approval to put the kayak rack here. The findings and narrative that were provided contain language that would make it so that you would not be setting a precedent. And the details of that narrative, which was authored by Mr. Hussey, I will turn it over to him to discuss the narrative, and then we're both here to answer questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. So there were really, my recollection of the meeting, there were two issues that were raised. Chairman Matthews raised the issue of the feasibility of doing mitigation planting, the scale that we were talking about. And the question really was, as I recall it, was the size of the area such that we could have 1,200 square feet of mitigation planting. And Mike has shown you the plan. What's not shown on the plan is there's a large portion of that dune that remains very sparsely populated. Some areas populated by vegetation, some areas open sand in the dune as well. So it's very much of a mixed environment.
And I think the plan shows that we can indeed do that kind of mitigation planting at that level of 1,200 square feet. The second issue, as Mike pointed out, was one that Jen raised that was echoed by other staff members, and that was around concern of setting a precedent. So the area has been damaged on the beach, and as you know, that occurred over a period of time with people storing vessels in an area that was vegetated. And we've taken full responsibility for what occurred, even though the association didn't do it ourselves. It was residents that were doing it. But we've taken full responsibility for that. It is a sand flat. It's not a dune, but it's a sand flat, is that area. And it's really the only viable area for placing a rack along the edge of the beach. Is back far enough from the top of the beach that is protected as the existing rack is. It's actually a little bit further back from the existing permitted rack. And we believe that having a rack in that location will help us to manage all of these additional boats that people want to store on the beach. Left to their own devices, people will just return to storing them any place along the beach. And as much as we can ask and plead that people follow the rules and don't place them in those locations, we're not a police force. You know, we can only do what we can do, which is asking people to follow our rules. But having a rack, additional rack that'll accommodate 60 small vessels, we feel is the most logical way to address the problem. We get them off of other areas of the beach, off of the grass, consolidate them into a very small area, and accommodate them where people are much more likely to want to put them than elsewhere in the beach. So we felt it's the best solution. And the question of setting a precedent, having someone damage an area and then giving them permission to use it, we hoped that the mitigation planting would help offset that concern. And in the letter that I wrote to the commission, showing a number of conditions that I thought were unique to this particular situation that could be given consideration, that if anybody else had 35 acres of conservation land that they were managing and was looking at an area that was just 1/100th of the land under management that had been damaged, that you could treat them in the same way. That we have conservation regulations in our bylaws that prevent people from unnecessarily cutting trees and other matters that I spelled out for you in those documents. So we thought that those could give you enough ammunition that you'd be able to create a finding upon which you could make a judgment that would allow us to proceed. I'd be very interested to hear your feedback on that language that I provided you.
Thank you. Jen?
Mr. Chairman, the staff's, I understand Mr. Hussey's argument. Mr. Hussey, though, you have some of the strictest covenants that I've seen in an association in Falmouth. If you wanted to stop the boats from being there, you could. It wasn't just a sparsely area. It wasn't a sand flat, and it, you know, we're going on a really late night, so I'm gonna save the commission from having to share my screen and showing a series of aerials again, going back until 2019, that shows this area to be really heavily vegetated, a very heavily vegetated dune with cedar trees that are now gone. So unfortunately, you know, our job is to keep the board very consistent with their regulations. We really do appreciate your stewardship of that area. But there is already one very large boat rack in a velocity zone, and to ask us to put another one in an area of damaged dune the staff just unfortunately cannot recommend that to the board or support that. So our opinion and our recommendation are going to remain that area be restored to its vegetated dune and the rack be placed elsewhere. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Alyssa, do you have anything to add?
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay. Pat, we'll start with you.
I have no comments. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Peter?
The only comment that I have is that the association is in a difficult position, that more members want to use their boats than they have rack space for. And we are concerned about the environment and the detriment that we have seen through the years. So it's a difficult position. No further comments.
Thank you. Betsy?
I have no comments. Thanks, Jamie.
Okay. Courtney?
Yeah, I kind of empathize with Peter's comments. This is a very tough one. I'm not sure what the solution is, and I'm wrestling with this right now, but it's in my mind, it's not a slam dunk.
Okay. All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Doesn't look like there's any additional chat, so I think, nope, not for this project, Mr. Chairman.
So I'll make a motion to close the hearing, take it under advisement.
Third, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Are there any other comments? All right, Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Third aye.
Matthews, aye. Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Borselli. Thank you, Mr. Hussey.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, do you have any other ones tonight?
Yes, the 44 Gray Lane.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll move you back then. Sorry.
Aye.
All right, the next two have already been continued. Therefore, brings us to, somebody has something going on in their background. Kevin Clower, the second trustee, 18 Willis Lane, nominee trust, 18 Willis Lane, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to restore a previously planted buffer to a coastal bank. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm trying to promote everybody up. Give me a minute. I'm promoting Jeff Johnson, Maria Hickey. Jeff, am I promoting Nate up as well?
Betsy, I have the quorum as everyone but Steve.
That's correct.
Thank you.
That's good.
Jeff, is there anybody else I'm promoting up? Because I do have a gentleman that has his hand raised.
Is that Mike Kehoe?
Yes.
Yes, he can be promoted.
Okay, I'm promoting Mr. Kehoe. Is Nate coming up with you or no?
No, that's okay.
Okay, great. Sorry about that, Mr. Kehoe.
Let me start my video. Okay.
There we go. Who's beginning?
Thank you. Jeff Johnson, Holmes and McGrath, representing the applicants. We were here back on the 9th with the restoration plan. The commission had a number of comments, and we have revised the plan and met with staff. We've met, we believe, many of the comments that were suggested at the last meeting, and I'll just briefly go over them with you if I may share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Can we see my screen here?
Yes, sir.
Great. This is the revised plan. As you might recall, this entire lighter green area is an area of proposed restoration. There's an existing edge of lawn from the last hearing that's here. That follows this line here. All of this area is lawn. The area seaward of that is primarily beach grass. There's beach grass along the top edge of the riprap that was there at the time of compliance. It was solid beach grass, and that is to remain. At the last hearing, the staff had concerns about the proposed shrubby cinquefoil that was in the planting design, and that has now been removed, and we've replaced that with a band of low bush blueberry along the landward edge of the proposed restoration area. The staff and commission had concerns about interplanting the existing beach grass area, which is, again, seaward of this lawn line, but landward of the 2017 compliance beach grass. So it's this narrow band here and this triangular area over here. We had originally proposed to interplant that and leave some of the beach grass, interplant it with woody indigenous species, and we have now revised the plan to remove all of that beach grass. So the only beach grass that will remain at with the restoration is the beach grass that was there at the time of compliance. We were asked to reduce the concentration of Carolina rose, which we have done. It reconfigures the proposed St. John's wort, represented here by the symbol HD here and here, with the Carolina rose seaward of that in a band here and here. The plantings of bayberry and beach plum and bit more bayberry and winterberry on the sides have not changed. We've also added, with the concern of the staff and commission, we've added a proposed fence along the landward edge of the restoration area to prevent mowing and intrusion into the restoration area. A note has also been added to the plan to replace any of the dead or dying or stressed cedar trees. There was a concern about that. Staff has issued a report saying that the Carolina rose, although it's been reduced, hasn't been reduced very much. I'd like to point out, however, that we had to increase the numbers of the Carolina rose and the St. John's wort in order to replace those areas that we were counting as beach grass before. So those numbers had to increase slightly, but relatively the the Carolina Rose is less than what we had proposed before. And I believe that those are the revisions. Maria, do you have any other further comments?
I do not. Great job, Jeff. It's always great to see you. And also just to mention, and Jen had talked about it before, there are 2 posts along the walkway that were going to be added back in that were previously removed. And also the lighting that was previously there would be put back in once we're done planting. Be happy to answer any questions, as would Jeff.
All right, Jeff, you can stop sharing. Mr. Kehoe.
Yes, I just wanted to point out there was appended to the plan. There's a very detailed planting schedule. There's some 433 plants, more or less, that are being proposed here. And we're very hopeful that the commission will find that we've done exactly what is required for not only the performance standards, but also taking into account the commission's suggestions, staff suggestions. This is a very thoughtfully designed plan, took an awful lot of work and effort and collaboration with the staff. So we're very happy to have presented that to you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The only comment we have is, again, I still think it's a little too much rows, but we've gotten to a point where I think, the staff and the applicant's representatives, we're not going to get much farther than this. And I think we were all in agreement with that. So we're going to leave it to the board. But Jeff, I just need you to explain to me something. I understand you had to increase the rows because you got rid of the beach grass interplanting, but how did you increase the rows and decrease the rows at the same time? It's like traveling on 195 or I-95 and 124 or whatever, 128. It's like north and south.
North and south.
How did you do that?
Well, the numbers actually just decreased very slightly, I believe. Alyssa pointed out it was only by six plants?
Yeah.
So you decrease the plants, but increase the square footage. So is the spacing?
Right. So the spacing is, I think we're spacing at 48 inches.
Okay.
Feet.
48 inches, not 48.
Right, 48 inches. Yes, the spacing's at 4 feet.
4 feet on center as opposed to 3 feet on center.
Right.
Okay. All right. Usually the board does like to see their spacing at 3 feet on center, so that's something else to take into consideration.
Right.
And I think that's about all we have, Mr. Chairman, unless Alyssa has anything else to add.
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Jeff, were you going to throw something in there?
I just wanted to say about the spacing. With the Carolina Rose, the 3-gallon size are very large plants, and Maria will attest to that and how fast they will grow and fill in set at 4 feet on center.
Thank you. Steve, we're going to start with you. Oh, I'm sorry, Steve, you're not on it. Never mind. Peter.
No questions.
All right. Pat?
Just a procedural matter. I don't think it was announced that this is a hearing under both the notice of intent and the enforcement order. It's a consolidated hearing.
Correct, Pat. But I think if we close this hearing, I don't want to I want to continue the enforcement matter until we issue an order of conditions.
But everything in this hearing should be part of the enforcement as well as the notice of intent.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Maury?
The only thing that I had on my list was that for the lighting wasn't to be upward lighting. That was all. But otherwise, they covered everything.
Thank you, Maury.
So the lighting is downward lighting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kevin,
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Courtney,
No questions.
Betsy. Betsy? You're muted. And I know I asked you to.
And I'm not quite sure why you did, because I have no noise in the background, unless somebody
Yeah,
wants to get my dogs up. But anyway, I have no questions. Thanks, Jeff
All right.
and Maria and Mike.
Thank you.
Welcome.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function?
Not on this project, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Hawk, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close this hearing. If there's nothing else. All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawk's eye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
All right, it is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much and have a great night.
Thank you. Thank you very
Good
much.
night, everybody.
All right, next up, requests to amend an existing order of conditions. First up, Dick J. Boss, 203 Chappaquay Road, Falmouth, Mass. Request to amend the order of conditions for Mass DEP number 25-4671 to permit an IA septic system modification.
Jeff, are you doing this or am I
Yes.
promoting Nate up?
No, I'll handle it. Thank you very much.
Jeff showed tonight.
Jeff showed tonight. Good evening. Jeff Johnson with Holmes and McGrath representing the applicant. If with your permission, I would like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
The existing order of conditions authorizes the renovation of the existing house and garage as shown here on this plan. The existing house will be elevated, moved to the side, pilings driven, and then replaced on the taller pilings to the velocity zone standards. The order of conditions was issued. The applicant, and it was issued with no changes in the septic system, and the applicant filed for a building permit application. The building permit application went to the Board of Health, and the Board of Health agent reviewed the previous approvals. A variance was granted that that limited the number of bedrooms, but it also and the number of bedrooms are not increasing. There's not an increase in design flow, but there was a second condition that said if there was any increase in habitable space, that the system would have to be modified as an IA system. This was overlooked when we filed the previous notice of intent. So in order to rectify that and meet that Board of Health variance requirement, we are proposing to convert the existing system to an IA system. The existing septic tank is here off the existing garage. And it will be pumped dry, filled with clean sand and abandoned. We are proposing a 1,000 gallon fast tank and 1,000 gallon pump chamber to replace that in the front yard area. As you may recall, this entire lot is a coastal dune, everything that is not either driveway or structure. The entire site is it will be around the house will be disturbed with the construction. There's a limit of work that follows along in here. Not highlighted very well in this colored version of the plan. It comes up here and along here, and then down over under this property line, not property line, but over here on the other side of the driveway and around. It's a very tight limit of work, but the proposed tanks are within that limit of work. All areas of the dune upon completion will be planted according to the planting plan that's already been approved and submitted. So this change is a relatively minor change, but it had to come back before the commission as an amendment to include these two tanks and an IA system. That I'll entertain any questions.
Thank you, Jeff.
And I will stop sharing my screen.
Jen.
We don't have any questions or comments, Mr. Chairman. It's a requirement of the Board of Health that that area in the front yard was going to be disturbed anyway and replanted. My only question, Jeff, is are you going to be able to replant with the same planting scheme you had before?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Then we don't have any list. I don't, unless Alyssa has anything to add.
I don't, thank you.
All right. Betsy.
I have no questions. This is an improvement.
Courtney.
No questions.
Kevin.
No questions.
Maury.
No questions, except the 3,000 gallon tank is going to be abandoned. It can't
Yes.
be, okay, can't be used. And it's just
That's
going to be left on
correct.
the ground.
Yes, it will be abandoned.
Pat.
No questions.
Peter.
No questions.
Steve.
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Jen, is there anything in the public chat function?
No, Mr. Chairman.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Third, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close this hearing. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Hello, Hawks, aye.
Pat.
Harris, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you very much.
Next up, Brewer Crane Family Trust, 26 Juniper Point Road, Woods Hole, Falmouth, Mass. Request to amend the order of conditions for Mass DEP number 25-4403 to permit an after-the-fact increase of impervious surface, installation of additional mitigation plantings, and regrading and drainage installation within a portion of existing lawn area. Ben?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted or kept Jeff Johnson up. You're doing this one, Jeff, right? Not
Yes,
Nate
that's
Moran,
correct.
right?
Yes, thank you very much, Jen. Commission Chairman, Commission members. With your permission, I would like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
The property at 26 Juniper Point Road has an existing valid order of conditions to perform some renovations to the existing house. It included, there was used to be an old greenhouse over in this area over here that was removed as part of that. To reconfigure the driveway and some mitigation plantings. The applicant had requested we review the project for certificate of compliance, and we found that the existing as-built conditions square footage exceeded what was proposed. So we recommended that we file an amendment to propose additional mitigation to account for that increase. The increases are primarily in the shape of the driveway and in the stone patio. Resource areas and their buffers that we have here that apply to the project are across the street. There's a freshwater pond. It's associated EVW. And then there's a very steep slope that comes up from that BVW to a stone retaining wall. And at the top of that slope, just on the pond side of the retaining wall, is the top of a coastal bank. So it's because it is in an AE flood zone. The resource area buffer to that bank is 50 feet here, and its 100-foot zone B buffer is out here. All of the increases in the square footage were in zone B. We did have some decreases. We had 106 square feet of actual decrease in zone A. The driveway in that zone is actually a little smaller. And there was a 518 square foot increase in the B. With that difference, we're claiming that credit for that decrease in the A into the B for an overall 412 square foot net increase in impervious surfaces in buffer zone B. So at a 2-to-1 ratio, we're required to do 824 square feet of mitigation, and 390 square feet up in the corner over here has already been planted, and the remaining 435 square feet we are proposing in the buffer zone A on the lot, but I'm sorry. But on either side of the driveway here and here. As the staff report pointed out, the originally approved plan showed a pile of stones, I believe, over in this area that had been removed during construction. So that area is now available to plant. Second portion of the proposed work is to correct a drainage problem that the applicant has in this area over here. There's an existing small catch basin in this location right here that is not functioning properly, and this whole area ponds frequently. So part of this proposal was when they do the planting work, will be to regrade this lawn area so that these arrows represent the direction of the proposed flow, and reset this catch basin to a slightly lower elevation, and then install a leaching galley over here with stone around it to accept all that yard runoff. So that's also part of the proposal. I believe that is about all I have. We're here to get your approval to for the after the fact approval for the increase in square footage, the additional mitigations required to account for that, and to correct the drainage issue. That I'll accept any questions.
Thank you, Jeff. Jen?
I don't have any questions at this time, Mr. Chairman, unless Alyssa has anything to add.
I just had one comment directed towards the commission. I believe there was a couple requests recently with COC hearings and amended order hearings that the board had requested to be sent the previous plans and information regarding those, just so you had more information to base your decision off of. So that was the point of my comments, just to give you a little backstory on the original order and my findings as to what impervious surface changed between the original and the proposed. So I hope that was helpful and not confusing. That's it.
Thank you. All right. Maury, we'll start with you.
No questions or comments. Thank you.
Pat?
No questions, thank you.
Peter?
No questions.
Steve?
No questions, thank you.
Kevin?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Courtney?
I'll make it unanimous. No questions.
Betsy?
No, Courtney, I'll make it unanimous.
I'm sorry.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
And I'll also make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
All right. If there's nothing further, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. All right. Betsy?
Gladfelder, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carl Hawks, aye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you very much, Chairman and Commission members.
Jeff, are you done this evening?
Yes, I'll be hanging around in the background to watch the next hearing. But
okay, I'll move you back into attendees then.
Thank you.
Not a problem.
An exciting night for Jeff, huh? This was the Jeff Johnson show tonight.
Exactly what I was thinking.
Poor
I
Jeff.
wonder what he's getting punished for. All right. Request for a hearing for a certificate of compliance. Michelle Samorian, trustee, 21 Fay Road, Falmouth, Mass. Request for a certificate of compliance for Mass DEP number 25-4372. And simultaneously, John Samorian, 21 Fay Road, Falmouth, Mass. Request for a certificate of compliance for Mass DEP number 25-2254. Mr. Goshgarian, looks like you're up, sir.
Also, I promoted Brian Wall up also, Mr. Chairman. So it's Nate and Brian.
Excellent.
If
Welcome,
I may,
gentlemen.
Mr. Chairman, may I be the one that starts?
I don't know.
May I-
How does Nate feel about that?
May I ask a question before either of you start? And that
Go
is, Jen, I didn't get a sheet on this. Do you want me to make a sheet for it?
Yes, please.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Wall, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And all kidding aside, Jeff Johnson is actually also working on this one too. So I just wanted to let you know that.
Jeff.
So, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, for the record, my name is Brian Wall. I'm an attorney with an office in Sandwich, and I'm working with Holmes and McGrath, representing Mr. and Mrs. John Samorian, who are the owners of 21 Fay Road. This property has been in their family for over 30 years. And over those years, they've undertaken a number of projects, many of which were authorized by orders of conditions, but not all of the orders are closed out. There are several that are open. The client wants to take care of this problem and retained Holmes and McGrath to go through the record and identify what needs to be done to close out the permits. And you might ask, why are we here? Ordinarily, compliance is a routine matter, at least it's hoped to be, and it's largely handled by staff. But we have requested a hearing tonight because we are going to ask the commission to exercise its discretion to try to help solve a problem. This one's a little bit atypical because I was thinking a way to how to describe it simply. And what it is we have a bit of a square peg that we're trying to put in a round hole. And Nate's going to get into the details, but basically the problem arises because there were permits issued, and then subsequently during the course of the project, some amendments were made, and the permits came with authorization to do certain things with associated mitigation. And in at least one case, the project was reduced in size, but the mitigation was not. It remained the same. And some of that mitigation got installed. So we have a situation where we have mitigation for a project that we don't actually need anymore, but we have other projects that require mitigation that hasn't been done. And as you'll hear from Nate, I'm going to turn it over to him now. We have a suggested solution that provides all of the numerical square footage of mitigation that is required by all the permits, and then some. We added a little bit more, but it's in a slightly different configuration. And that's why we actually had an on-site meeting with Jen and Alyssa, and we made this request at Jen's suggestion because it's not a matter of simply saying you did exactly what the permit said. It's something different. But we think that if the commission can hear us out, that it's something that you could approve through the exercise of your discretion. And so having said that, I turn it over to Nate, and he's got a plan he wants to show as well. So if he could share his screen, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Brian. Members of the commission, staff, Mr. Chairman, for the record, Nate Goshkarian with Holmes McGrath. Permission to share my screen, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right, can you see the plan?
Yes.
Okay, great. So like Brian said, I'm going to go over as succinctly as I can the two open orders that we're discussing that we are trying to close. And it's a little, atypical of a situation. So I would recommend or note that while I'm going over this, I've put the bullet points in this blue square. These are basically in chronological order as to how I go over them, what I'll be discussing. So there are two orders. The first one stems from 1998. It basically approved two additions. One addition in the north, which is right here, bumping out of the northern end of the house, and then an addition on the southern end of the house. One addition was complete, the north addition, and the south addition was not complete. Traditional, I guess, for the times, we don't see in this order a typical mitigation ratio requirement. In other words, a 2-to-1 or a 3-to-1 mitigation ratio. But what we do see, which from what I understand is kind of typical of the time, is a special condition which requires lawn reduction. In this case, it would be special condition number 4 under order 25-2254. So the lawn size is 2,700 square feet, and that reduction requirement is to bring it to 2,000. So what we're doing effectively is carrying over that negative 700 square feet to reduce the lawn from 2,700 feet to 2,000 into the second open order. That is the only component that we're bringing from the first to the second. So the second order was issued in 2018, and I'm going to read what was actually approved in that. Permission granted to construct and maintain an addition, construct a stone patio, replace stone steps, install and maintain mitigation plantings, remove invasives along the top of the coastal bank and within the coastal bank buffer, and install restoration plantings in the area of removed invasive plants according to the project narrative by Holmes McGrath and Ray Hickey Landscapes. So the only items out of everything that the only items that were done out of the list that I just read were the vegetation related additions. There were no structural components completed that would have required additional mitigation. So the parts that were complete were restoration and invasive removal and native replanting. But what was also done, in lieu of the fact that the structures that required mitigation were built, was an additional 487 square feet of mitigation plantings. In essence, or in other words, 487 square feet of surplus vegetation. So what we're proposing tonight and asking the commission to consider is essentially transposing those two values. The 700, which was required in originally in 1998, carried over into 2018 to reduce the lawn by 700 square feet, and using that surplus of 487 to bring that value down. So it'd be 700 minus 487, which brings us to 213. As Brian previously mentioned, we're proposing to bump that up to 350. And we are importantly keeping the areas of mitigation just along the top of the coastal bank, right here and right here. And these are the areas that, like Brian had mentioned, we discussed with conservation on site. Originally, that area was proposed to be planted landward of the fence right here. So I think that sums up what we have for tonight, Mr. Chairman. I would hand it back over to you. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Nate. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, as Nate said, we just could not, I think they realized we couldn't issue compliance. So this is why it was kicked to the board. Alyssa, do you have anything to add? I know you really looked into this with Nate.
Yes, so Nate and I did a very deep dive into this project. I think it was 5 orders altogether. So I think my first comment was, and Nate, you did clarify that there's no actual construction that took place in the 2018 order of conditions. It was just from the 1998, it was the addition. So that clarifies that for me. For the remainder of mitigation proposed, there were 5 species listed. In terms of sweet fern, I know the commission has their feelings about sweet fern. And another option was Virginia rose. And a lot of the current mitigation on the property was administratively approved by Mark a couple years ago, and a lot of it is rose already. So we would like to see a few different species incorporated. I went on a little tangent about trees, as there were many proposed to be removed, some were removed, some that weren't proposed to be removed. Or I guess I feel like there should be more than 1 tree proposed to be replanted, considering how many were also removed. But that can be up to the board. I'm not sure if those trees were removed for health reasons or if they were construction access and then the construction never actually took place. That was before my time, so I'm not sure on the history there. And there was a special condition referring to cutting on the coastal bank, and during our site visit in December, it appears that the cutting is still taking place, so that needs to stop. Those are all my comments for now. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Pat, we're going to start with you. You're muted. Pat, you're muted.
Thank you. I need to make a disclosure first. Brian Wall represents me in a matter not under the jurisdiction of the commission, and I'm disclosing this to dispel any appearance of conflict of interest. I only have a question procedurally. Did you consider having the orders amended and then recalculating? I mean, I don't know. This just seems kind of odd to have it as a certificate of compliance. And I don't have anything against it, but I was wondering if you considered other ways of doing it.
I guess I'll answer that, Pat. I'm not trying to throw Jen under the bus at all, but we had met on site and the issue was compliance, and then she suggested that we come in front of the commission on a compliance. We could go back and seek to amend the orders and then come in for a compliance regarding that. But I think that you have authority under your regulations. We have this ability to ask for a hearing and to have the board exercise its discretion in this matter. And that's because, again, we're offering all the mitigation as far as the number is required. I'm not trying to escape any obligation. It's just a matter of, I kind of characterize it in two different things. If you go back to 1998, the regulations were different. There was a different regulatory kind of approach on how the commission dealt with mitigation. And then I think it was in 2007, 1018 in its relatively current format was adopted. So we have kind of two different types of approaches to mitigation that we're dealing with over this time span. And then we have the added problem of a permit was approved with mitigation and the project was reduced, but the mitigation wasn't reduced. But part of that mitigation actually went into the ground. So we had that 487 feet that's out there. And so really kind of what it comes down to is we're simply asking the commission to give us credit for that mitigation that was put in the ground in good faith and to kind of work with us to come up with a different place to put in this plantings rather than reduce the lawn. And if you've been out to the property, I mean, we're not hiding anything here either. It's got a nice sweeping view of Vineyard Sound, and the client would prefer not to have to plant plants at the lawn edge where they've got this beautiful property, but they're willing to provide the mitigation and then some in places that the regulation 1018 wants it to be, adjacent to the resource. So anyway, that's kind of how we got here. I'm perfectly happy to discuss a different procedural route, but we're simply trying to close out permits.
Right, it seems to be a streamline. I'm just think it makes for an unusual record. And I just wondered if you considered about going back to the beginning and go through each order and amend it, but I'm not going to push that. I have nothing else to say.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Jen, so to be clear, this mitigation is not complete, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. All right. Peter.
It's being swamped.
But it's kind of what they're asking for is approval to make that swap. Is that correct?
Johnson says the orders cannot be amended because they're not valid. They're all old orders, Pat, and I think that's why we did it like this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm sorry, I didn't think of that. And if I may, Mr. Chairman, some of the mitigation is in the ground and others isn't.
Is it?
Yeah, there's a net difference of 213 square feet. And what we're proposing is 430. So we're proposing to do that 213 and add another 213. So you get 400. But as I was saying to Pat Harris, we're reducing lawn, but providing planting. It's kind of that's why I used the square peg round hole analogy. It just doesn't fit.
And you're putting the planting in a different area because they don't want to put the planting in front of that kind of bump out lawn area, correct, Brian?
Yeah, and Jen, also it's an excellent point because, the permit said the lawn could not exceed 2,000 square feet. But back then it didn't say where you had to do the reduction. But now we have planting requirements that require it to be closest to the resource area. So again, it's kind of like a square peg round hole kind of thing. And that's why we came up with what we did.
But you're asking for compliance with something that's not complete. Am I understanding that right? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess to put it that way, Mr. Chairman, excellent point. What we want to know is whether we can proceed in this manner. And if we have to do it in a two-step process, that would be fine.
I mean, I don't have a problem with this. It's my common sense tells me that you're asking for the okay for something that's done that is not done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And I guess what we're seeking is we could either condition it or you could give us kind of a straw vote and then we could go do the work, knowing that it's going to satisfy the board in equal compliance.
Okay. Kevin. Mr. O'Brien.
I know. Yeah, I think the best thing is to go along with this and put an end to it. It's not like getting away with anything, so fine.
Yeah, and I'm not implying anybody's trying to get away with anything. Maury?
It's just unique. I've never, it's a tough one. It's closed out. You'd actually have to do another notice and just go on. If Jen wants to speak. I'm okay with it.
But only one of them is closed out. Only the 2254 one is closed out. The 43721 was issued in when? 18, Brian? When was that one issued?
2018. Yes.
2018.
2018. So isn't it still valid because everything was told during the pandemic?
Yeah, it would appear to be that one would be open, yes.
That could be open. So if we wanted to continue this, file the amendment, as Pat's saying, clear it up through that, and then come back and ask for the compliance, we could do that.
That would work. I think that would address a lot of the concerns. It would address.
Yeah, that would address Jamie's concern and Maury's concern and Pat's concern.
Right, because if we get the amendment, we know that the board has approved that, and then we can then get compliance once the planting's done.
Plantings are in, and you can do it that way.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
So, Mr. Chairman, why don't we do this? Why don't we just continue these matters out like a month or so? They can file an amendment on the 43721, which is the one they were supposed to both be on here before, and we just missed. There was a miscommunication between Holmes and McGrath and us, and we missed one of them, which is why we had to delay it. Mr. Jeff Johnson, raise your hand if you agree with that. He's trying to find how to raise his hand. Jeff, if you don't raise your hand, I'm going to promote you up again. He's asking for it tonight. What do you think, Nate?
I mean, that sounds good to me.
Brian, are you in agreement with that?
I am. I think it's a great idea, Jen, because I think we can take the plan that we've already done and take the cover letter that we gave for this hearing and turn it into a request for amendment.
Mr. Johnson, do you agree with that?
Yes, I agree, but I want to make it clear that the order is only valid till September this year.
Okay, well.
I give plenty of time.
Yeah. I mean, can you get if the plan's done, you can just get the request to amend it and then you can pop the plants in.
That's right. And then that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we're talking about 400 and some odd square feet of planting.
Yeah, let's try to do it that way then, and then it addresses everybody's concerns.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Do you want to just continue these matters out a couple of months, Brian?
Yes, on behalf of the applicant, I would request a continuance. Maybe if we say 60 days or something, and we can come in with a request for an amendment prior to that. Then we could withdraw this request.
Okay, so how about May 4th?
Is that okay with you, Nate and Jeff?
Yep, sounds good.
That sounds good.
At the request of the applicant, I make a motion to continue this to May 4th.
Hollow Hawk second.
All right. I didn't give everybody the opportunity to speak. So does anybody have anything they want to throw in?
I waived my right to speak. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I have a comment. I thought Nate and Brian did very good explanations when they were asked to, and were very succinct.
Thank you, Bessie.
It's getting late.
It is.
We like
I have a lot of hearings.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this to May 4th. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Earl Hawks, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
All right, it is unanimous. We've continued this until May 4th. Thank you, Nate.
Thank you.
Mr. Wall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the commission, and thank you, staff. Thanks, Jen and Alyssa, for your help on this one. It's invaluable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, guys.
Thank you, Mr.
Good night.
Johnson.
Good night, good night.
Do we get to see you again, Jeff, sometime?
I'm sure.
Really leaving?
Thank you.
All right. Next up, hearings under an enforcement order. Rainey Stata, 44 Gray Lane, Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted construction of a shed within conservation jurisdiction. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to let Alyssa take this one. And Mike Borselli is in attendees. He is representing the applicant. He's just listening in. If he wants to pop in and say something, he's going to raise his hand.
All right. Ms. Bergeron.
Sure, thank you. So as you can see on the staff report, we were made aware via an email from the police department. They were contacted in November of last year. There were neighbors that were concerned about a shed being constructed very close to the water and the beach. Staff did not receive these emails until after the holiday weekend, but we quickly got in touch with the neighbors to walk the beach and take a look at the shed. It is certainly within the velocity zone, seems to be within the first 50 feet of beach. It's in a coastal bank. As you can see through the photos, there was clearing in the area and one tree was removed. Definitely part of the bank was dug into to get a flat surface for this shed. It appears that gravel and cobble were brought onto the site. Once staff was made aware of this, we immediately sent a violation letter to Mr. Stata, and we were contacted by Mr. Borselli to represent at least the initial phase of this hearing. There's a little miscommunication between myself and Mr. Borselli. I think we were each waiting on each other, so that explains the delay here. But I believe that's it.
Thank you. Jen, do you have anything to add?
Nope, only that at this point, we're recommending the board issue an enforcement order, require a plan. I mean, we could do it two ways. We could issue the enforcement order, or we could continue this to have Mike develop a plan. But I mean, it's just basically removal of the shed, removal of the gravel, and restoration of that area. I think we can close this enforcement hearing, issue that enforcement order with a timeline of when that plan needs to be done and when restoration needs to be complete. So I think if you want to issue that enforcement order tonight, those are the questions, you know, those are the answers the staff needs to have is how many days would you like to give the applicant to come up with a plan? And then, you know, you can work with staff to restore this area. It's not a very large area. So staff would be perfectly capable. We'd be happy to just work with the applicant's representative on a restoration plan for this.
Kind of simple.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 60 to, I mean, everybody's backed up. You want to give them 60 days to 90 days. Well, 60 days we're in March, April, May. Then they're looking at planting in June. So
60 days.
60 days, and you get it planned by the end of April, and then they'll have to plant by Maury. Where are you, Maury? Right there.
Yeah.
Planting in that time of year. What do you think?
It's not a big, huge area.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be tough because I don't know who's going to water it. So it better be really drought tolerant.
Okay. Mike's raising his hand.
Mike.
Letting him in.
Courtney, I'll get to you. Mr. Boselli.
I was trying to stay in the witness protection program behind the scenes, but I think I need to speak. I had been hired to do what is necessary to fix the matter, and we're willing and able to do the work. I don't know that I can commit to having the plan done in that amount of time based on my current workload. I have to send my survey crew out there. They're committed for several weeks now. So if I can't meet the schedule, I'm hoping that you'll be, of the 60 days, that you would be amenable to providing more time. I'll do my best, but I don't know that I can meet that commitment.
That's good rationale. That's fine. Has the shed been removed?
I don't think so. So I intend to do a topographic survey in the area within 100 feet of the shed, showing the wetland resources, and then propose, to remove the shed and restore it, and put some specifications, working with your staff on how to restore the area and what plant materials appropriate. But I do need some time.
How much time would you like, Mike?
Well, there was discussion of 60 days. I don't know that I'll be able to meet that. So I'm concerned that, we'll get the work done and get it proposed, and then we'll be in the middle of the summer. And it might not be the best time to plant. I don't know that I'll be able to get everything done so that they can plant in June. I'm just concerned about that reality.
Maury?
Can they just remove the shed and the material that's there and then do an as-built? I mean, that would speed up the process to get that off the coastal bank, out of the V zone, and plant it, and then just do an as-built. I don't know if that would work.
Sure. I mean, if I'm not, getting the survey done is the longest part of our schedule in this industry now. So, regardless of what engineering firm does it, it's getting the survey crew out to do the measurements. Once you get it on paper, things go a lot faster. Mm-hmm. So, we'd be developing a plan right after we get the survey done. It'll show, proposed existing shed to be removed, and there'll be notations about restoration and some notes about appropriate plant material. So I'll do my best, but I may need a little bit more time, is all I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, environmentally, getting that off the coastal bank, out of the V zone, before, I'm amazed it didn't get blasted out of the water or, off of that right now. But, and then that way there you can stabilize it sooner than later.
Yeah, I would think you could, in your enforcement order, just instruct them to remove the shed ASAP without a plan, and submit a plan to restore a subsequent.
We can do that. We can come up with something where we remove the shed. Staff confirms that the shed in the area has been stabilized. We can wait for Mike's plan, and then they have to plant the area by, the fall.
That's very doable.
Maury?
And that's a better time to be planting, is, the end of summer.
Okay. All right, we'll do that.
Courtney, you had something?
Not really. I fine with what Maury suggested. I mean, anything to expedite the process. If we get the shed out of there and the stabilized, I don't know why there can't be a planting plan worked out and then an as-built done and get it all done before summer.
And we can work with that too.
Yeah, we could do that too. Yeah, we could, if there doesn't need to be a plan to do the planting.
It's not a very big area.
How much of an area is we talking about it? How big is the shed?
100 square feet.
It's probably a 20 by 20 area max.
So there isn't that large an area that's disturbed. It's just a matter of getting it restored. Let's do whatever we can to expedite the process and get it planted before summer.
Okay, we can do that.
Mike, you good with that?
Yeah, I'll meet with your staff and we can work that out. And maybe we have to have an as-built plan after it's done that'll prove it was done.
Right.
You know, that might
Okay,
come,
we'll write up-
get planted and then prove, do the plan, and you'll see the plan in the early part of summer, I would think.
Maury, that sound good?
Sounds good. I mean, it's not just me. If everybody's good with that, I just want to get that thing off the coastal bank.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's fine.
All right, does anybody else have anything? Okay, so we're gonna be looking to issue an enforcement order, correct?
An enforcement order to remove the shed within, I'd say, like 30 days, stabilize the site, work with staff and get it planted within like 60 to 90 days, and then have Mike do an as-built after that. What is that? How does that sound, Mike?
That's very workable.
Okay, that'll work. We'll make it happen.
I'll make a motion to do exactly what Jen just said, and then Mike will get to work.
Third, second.
Harris second.
Third, fourth, fifth.
I love that technical language. All right. So we have a motion and a second to issue an enforcement order as Jen discussed. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Yellow Hawk's eye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have issued an enforcement order. Thank you, Mr. Borselli.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, next up, Leonard Bassett Jr. and Patricia Bassett, trustees, 465 Courier Road, East Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted removal of trees within conservation jurisdiction. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am promoting a Jeff Bassett and a Glenn Bassett up. I'm assuming they would be speaking on behalf of the property owners. So, Melissa, do you want to go through this or do you want me to?
I can at least start with you.
Okay.
So staff received a phone call in mid-February from MES regarding a number of trees being cut down on Courier Road at number 465. They were curious if there was a permit for this. Mark and our interim part-time agent, Liz, were in the area, so to the site. And the first three paragraphs of my staff report are quoted from Mark's statement of their encounter. They went on to the association property next door to view the trees cut down at 465. They found at least 6 more mature pitch pines were recently cut. Didn't appear to be any signs of root uplifting, so we weren't sure the reasoning for the trees being removed. Liz did speak to the homeowners, and I believe they were under the impression that the gentleman who cut down had received a permit. Not received a request for any of these trees to be.
Yeah, there's several things inaccurate with your statements. I just
Hold
wanted.
on.
Quite finished yet.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
I'll call on you when we're ready.
If you want me, I'll just mute until you call on me then.
Thank you. Jennifer had spoken to a Mike who was at the company that was responsible for removing the trees on the property, and he said that he did not obtain a permit for the work. I did provide a number of photos. Since we don't have any filings for this property since the 80s, I heavily relied on the Google Street View, which was dated September of 2011. So those are the latter for more landscape photos. Comparing those photos to photos that Mark took and myself, I quickly just drove by the site today. Seems like a number of trees have been removed since at least the 2011 Google Street View. I did speak briefly to Mr. Bassett today. He gave me a little insight that some of the trees had been damaged during recent storms. as I said, there was no permit pulled with us, so I'm not quite sure the extent of how many trees and when they were removed. So that is the information we're working with here. So Jen, if you have anything else to add.
No, I think you pretty much covered it. I just want the board to know this is an incredibly, the shoreline along here is an incredibly sensitive area. It is a coastal plain pond shore. This area is mapped in Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program territory. So any work on these properties over here do need to go through Natural Heritage. I think Alyssa did a nice summary. Mark did this initial site visit. And we've provided the board with all the information that we have available at this time. Unfortunately, there were a number of trees removed on the property. And so we're recommending that the area be restored.
All right. Jeff Bassett.
So, well, I wanted to say a couple things that, let's see. I mean, what happened is the big storm in November where the nor'easter, where so many trees fell and we were out of power here on the Cape for a long time. Part of that was because one of the trees in my yard fell onto the power lines. Two of them hit my house. One of them hit my neighbor's house. And I think we lost more than 8 trees in that one storm initially. We left some others. And then that next more recent nor'easter came. And because the summer was so warm and dry, these trees were dying and they just blow over now. And once the most recent one came down, another one was at about a 45-degree angle. We just had them come in and he told us the other ones were gonna fall from Traverse. That's what they told us anyway. They told us that they could hit the house, they could hit the boat, and because I was out there plowing, they could have hit me. But all that being aside, you know, we thought that this was something that was handled by Traverse Construction, and that the trees were not salvageable, really. And I mean, if you look at them, they had like very few branches on the top. As for older work from 2011, like the 2 trees that you see in our front driveway, those trees were eaten up by ants and stuff. There was like an infestation. The tree was hollow. And those came down probably in 2012 or 2015, somewhere in that area. So that's how you're getting this big 14 tree number, which is, like we lost 8 in the November storm and the rest were taken down. The others, was it 5 or 6? Well, either way, we're taken down most recently because another one fell and we were told the other ones could have hit the boat, could have hit the house. And we were concerned also in your letter here, you say a couple things that are wrong. We didn't have any trees taken down because branches on the boats or anything like that. The branches may have been overhanging the boats, but that was just meant that that's where they were going to fall if they fell. And we were afraid for safety reasons that these trees were going to wipe out the shed, the boat, the garage, or myself in the driveway when I was shoveling. And, you know, we thought since they had come out, they marked all the gas lines, they marked all the electrical lines. We assumed that he had a permit for all this stuff. I just didn't know that none of this stuff was permitted. They seemed very professional to us that all this happened. We had always intended to replant bushes or something because our yard now looks like a big mud pile. It's just awful, but we want to restore our yard. We don't want an ugly yard. We didn't cut trees down for any aesthetic reasons or because we didn't like where something was or we have some kind of weird project. It was all because of safety, no other reason real, just because we were afraid of these trees falling. Also, there was something else about, let's see, it said the town came out with the gas line, conversations. I don't know what you meant by not seeing the uprooting, but I took a measuring stick, I know, to the ones in the front yard, and it was like about 2 or 3 inches from the where the grass line was. I am not sure about all of them having that problem. And like I said, and one of the ones most recently cut down was at about a 45-degree angle towards the water. I don't know, it may have been cut flush, but it was at a 45-degree angle. So that one would have probably fallen through our fence onto the beach next door, the association beach. But, you know, we had it taken down at our expense. That's our position. Like I say, none of this happened because we wanted to make our, I don't know, because we didn't like trees or something. My brother has a question. I'll let him speak.
Glenn?
You have to unmute yourself.
Glenn, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you so much. I have some photos. I don't know if there's a way to screen share, but I do have some photos of some of this damage. Is there a way for me to share my screen?
You go down to the bottom, sir.
Yep.
You're going to see a green thing that says screen share.
Got it.
Click that. You're going to have to click the screen that you want to share and then go down into the bottom corner, the bottom right-hand corner of that screen and click share.
Oh, I see. Okay. Thank you.
Photos would be helpful. We work with people all the time for storm damage. The issue is nobody ever contacted us. So we're working in a vacuum.
Yeah.
And we get contacted all the time by tree damage and trees that have fallen. We work with people all the time to remove trees. It's situations where people do not call us and do not provide us photos. And most of the time after storm damage, we ask people just send us the photos if the trees are, clearly damaged, and we allow them to be taken down. It's situations like this where the town's not contacted that we get calls from our Marine and Environmental Services Department, and then we have to go and investigate, and here we are.
Got it. You know what, Jeffrey, do you have the photos on your computer? Because I'm on my work computer, I don't have the permission to share it for some reason. Do you have them by any chance, Jeff? I have them on my phone. Can I show? I'll just hold them up from my phone.
That's not going to be helpful. We're not going to be able to see those. So if you could email them to us, that would be helpful.
Okay, absolutely. What's the best email to send them to?
You can send them to CON.
Yep.
COM.
Yep.
At.
Yep.
FalmouthMA.gov.
Got it. Okay. Should I send right this second? Would that be helpful?
You can.
Okay, thank you.
I think I figured out the screen sharing thing, Glenn. You want me to try it?
Yeah, try it. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
So that's one of the trees. That's the one that hit our neighbor's house. Oops. Oh, shoot. It's going through everything on my whole thing. Let's see. There was another one. That was one by the beach that had fallen.
I don't see that one, sir.
We don't see it, Jeff. We only see a close-up of some of the.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
No.
I guess I haven't figured out the screen share. I apologize, everybody. We're not used to this video stuff.
maybe we should continue this so that they can get the information to us for the next hearing.
That sounds like a great idea.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yep.
Didn't realize I couldn't.
Mr. Bassett, can you stop screen sharing, please?
Yes. How do I do?
Click on stop sharing.
There it is. If I fixed it, I apologize.
All right, so you guys can work on emailing those pictures to staff. That would be helpful.
It would be very helpful, and we can better evaluate it. There's one more thing. Unfortunately, you'll be receiving another letter from us because while we were evaluating your property, we noticed that the dock seems to be a lot longer and larger than it was originally permitted. So we'll need to address that as well.
All right. Regarding the dock is not as wide, but it doesn't go, nothing is permanent about the dock. Dock is now removable instead of a floating dock where the original one was floating.
I understand that, sir, but it's longer. It's clearly longer in the pictures. So we're going to need to address that as well. And we can talk to you. We can set up a Zoom call with Alyssa and myself. We can go over the pictures. We can go to the site, but the dock is going to have to come into compliance with the original order of conditions for that dock. So we can discuss that. And we can either,
does that mean the dock has to float?
we can discuss that at another time, sir. Okay?
Okay.
We'll discuss that with you when we meet with you.
Okay.
So I don't think we'll be able to do it for next week, Mr. Chairman. So we're looking at the 16th. We just won't be able to pull this together for next week with our current workload.
Yeah. Can you guys get the pictures over this week?
Yeah, I just emailed them. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So does the 16th work for you guys?
Let's check. Is the 16th a good day to do this again?
It's a Wednesday.
A Wednesday, at what time?
It'd be 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock would be fine. Yep.
Okay. And Mr. Glenn Bassett, you just sent us that email. We'll respond to that email and we'll set up a time where Alyssa and I can talk to you and your brother about the trees and about the dock and about the property in general and what you can do to kind of possibly replace some of the biomass that's been removed. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
At the request of the applicant, I make a motion to continue this to March 16th.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until 3/16. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks eye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Yes.
Steve?
Aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until 3/16. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, continued hearings under an enforcement order. Kevin Clower, the second trustee, 18 Willis Lane Nominee Trust, 18 Willis Lane, East Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted removal of mitigation and restoration plantings associated with Mass DEP number 25-4099. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, why don't we continue this until we vote the orders of conditions for 18 Willis? So we'll probably
2 weeks out?
3/9, Mr. Chairman.
I make a motion to continue this to March 9th.
Harris, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this till March 9th. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
And aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until March 9th. Jen, just procedurally, after the order conditions are voted, no?
We'll table it and then we'll vote and then we'll untable it and
Just curious. All
no, I
right,
mean, Mr.
Old
Chairman, you have the
business.
power.
I saw that tonight. Saw about 8 other chairmen tonight. All right, old business.
What a lucky guy.
Yeah, that's what I'm feeling.
I meant to say other business, not old business, other business.
You wrote it, I didn't.
I know, I just didn't prove it very well. So,
It's actually not old either, it's new business.
no, I know. So Lou Turner, Lou Turner's widow would like to hold a memorial service for him at the river. Mr. Turner was one of the founding members of the Coonamessett River Trust and also started the Herring Counts along the river. Betsy, when will this be held?
I think it's May 20th.
Yeah, it's sometime in May. And they'll be having people help park people. They'll be using the area by the overlook for the memorial. They will not impede anybody else from using the aerial overlook. This is considered kind of like a special event, and according to Frank Duffy, the board has to vote to allow the event to take place.
Bird,
Does it have to go before the Board of Selectmen as well?
No, just before you.
Interesting.
I make a motion to approve the event for Lou Turner.
Carlo Hawks, second.
Harris, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve this event under old business. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
And aye.
It is unanimous. We have approved. Next up, vote order of conditions. Woods Hole Business Association, Woods Hole Road, Woods Hole, Mass.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Let's see, wait a minute, let me write this down. This is to remove the vines and the trees along Woods Hole Road. They clearly mark them in the field. It's basically the first phase. They wanted to do an invasive species removal project, but that's really large. So we kind of suggested first phase would be to take the vines off the trees, remove the trees that were really dead or weren't going to be able to survive. Let's see how that opens up that view along Woods Hole Road. And then we can reevaluate if any additional work needs to go forward since then. We have met on site multiple times with the group from Holmes and McGrath, a group of the Woods Hole Business Association, and I do believe Matt Inman will be will be conducting the work.
Move to.
They have a note, no herbicides.
Move to accept the order as discussed.
Carlo Hawks,
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions as discussed. There's nothing further. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve,
Pat and aye.
thank you. It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Thank you. Next up, Robert and Elaine Bailey, trustees, the Elaine M. Bailey, 2013 Revocable Trust, 132 Little Neck Bars Road, Falmouth, Mass.
This is Phragmites removal. It's being done under a ecological restoration limited project. And the work will be done by Crawford.
All the usual stuff in there.
Yeah. They're gonna
All right.
somehow, because there's big sections of mature natives. Sometimes they're gonna tie the Phragmites together, cut it and wipe it that way to kind of group it together.
All right.
I'll make a
Maureen, you have
motion.
something? No, okay. Go ahead, Beth.
Make a motion to issue in order of conditions as discussed.
Bird, second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Hollow Hawks eye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Next up, Simon and Irina Streltsov, 8 Edgewater Drive, East Falmouth, Mass.
That's the reconstruction of that long disrepaired dock that has been disrepair since I've gotten here. But it does have a Chapter 91 license. They are going to repair it. And Wayne came in today to make a note on the plan that the float stops are going to be set at 3 feet instead of 2.5 to comply with our regulations.
Perfect.
So the quorum on this one is Courtney, Betsy, Jamie, Peter, Pat.
I'll make a motion to accept the order as discussed.
Hollow Hawks second.
All right. Betsy, give me the quorum again.
Courtney, Betsy, Jamie, Peter, Pat.
Okay, so Maury can't second it.
I'll second it.
Sorry, Maury. All right. Anybody have anything else? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous with the quorum. We have issued an order of conditions. And lastly, I think, Kevin and Sandra Delbridge, 24 Salt Works Way Nominee Trust, 174 Second Esset Road, and the abutting right-of-way, Falmouth, Mass.
Everybody but Steve.
This is the invasive species removal project. I'm just trying to find Maria's plan.
They revised it, right?
Well, we have shrubbies. Let's revise it again. There's still a lot of rows in here for some reason.
Didn't we ask it for it to be reduced when they came back? And if you don't have a plan that shows that, can't you put that in as a condition?
You want to have a reduced rows.
Put a percentage in. There can only be like, I know. It's 10%.
Yeah. I know she likes to put the rows up by the road to keep people from going down there. We'll just have her have the rows and then move forward from that. They wanted to get permission so they can move the osprey pole right away and everything like that, so.
So just make that a condition.
Okay, less rows, got it.
They also have a note that they need to remove unauthorized plants from the prior order over by the house. Does that resonate with you? No?
Sound
No,
familiar
what
to
I
me.
want them to do is clearly stake the property boundaries.
I see that, yeah. So I was dreaming.
No,
It's probably late, Pat.
I'm just writing.
no, it's fine. There's nothing unauthorized over by the house.
Over by the house, okay.
Are we set?
And I have an additional.
Think
note.
so.
No, Alyssa has something.
Alyssa has something.
Sorry.
We were going to require an on-site prior just to verify the staking of the property lines and of.
Yeah.
You should know that was disturbed.
With that, I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions based on this prior discussion.
Hello, Hawk, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions as discussed. There's nothing else. Betsy,
Gladfelder, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Hello, Hawk's eye.
Pat,
RSI.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Last motion. Who wants it?
Move to adjourn.
Hello, Hawk, second.
What am I missing?
Gladfelder, aye.
Bird
Hello, Hawk's
eye.
eye.
Matthews, aye.
O'Brien, aye.
Hello, Hawk's eye.
RSI.
Walsh, aye.
I vote on this one. Pat and I.
Hey!
There you are.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.